on, just be aware, the mics are on, I wanna test it, make sure it's working, so. Mics are on.
Hello?
Yeah, I know.
So kind of water, what I do, this stuff.
That way we'll, hopefully we'll get some,
I get it. Everything from pension, sewer, everything, generate budget generation, the whole schedule, which I put out there, tax collections, assessment fees, that entire process is me. So that's me, the background.
So what did you want to know about? Like, what did you come to learn, you know?
I want to see where the money's going.
Selling?
You know, I'm getting plenty of it, so I want to know where it's going. I mean, my taxes have like doubled since I've been here every single time. Well, it goes by, we're mandated, as you know, by the 4% tax levy maximization. I mean, that's how it's been going. I can tell you right now that what's driving a lot of these costs are not only capital expenditures when it comes to buildings and things like that, roads, bridges, schools. See, that's the problem. Is like, you know, there's that. We give plenty of money, and then it's like, you know, the Coventry High School is like in this disarray. They might lose their accreditation at one point. They're talking about. There's talks about how you know it's like, okay, so I'm giving $10,000 a year in taxes, which 10 years ago was much less. They make up 60. What is it, about 67% of the budget. So for every dollar, almost 70 cents goes to the school fund. The rest of the town, when it comes to police, public safety, roads, salt, sand, general administration, and all the wages, that goes off of 30 cents. I'm okay with the schools because, again, I truly believe communities are built by families. And families, we came here because the school, the school system was a good school system. Yep. And I know my friends, they come here because the school system is a good school system. Still, it's like, Exeter has a good school system, and I look at, the taxes in Exeter versus here, and it's like, holy, a huge difference.
Hang on, excuse me, just 1 second. Before we get started, I just want to introduce us. We're going out, we're live streaming now, okay. So I just want anybody watching this out there. This is a question and answer period that we had set up and put out, and hopefully we'll get some additional turnout. But we're up to 3 people now. I'm glad to see that at least. Yeah. But myself, I'm Ed Wazeker, I'm the interim town manager. We have our finance director, John Arnett, our tax collector, Monique Houle, and our tax assessor, Chris Coley. Yeah. So, welcome. Hopefully we'll get a bigger crowd, but we're here to question and answer, Q&A, a little background, anything we're trying to educate people on what the system is, how it works, and basically give you any kind of question, any answers that you guys are looking for on the process and the procedures. Right. This year on our budget, we're just beginning it, so it's not about this year's numbers or anything at this point. Right. But we are planning on doing one of those as it develops and gets deeper into the system, as well as the work sessions that the council will have. The other thing I want to say, this is not a town council meeting. It's not Open Meetings Act. This is a Q&A, department heads only, no politicians, and doesn't require or will not make a violation of
voting or public information act.
So thank you. So sorry to interrupt, but go ahead.
Well, first question.
Jumping on that.
Where does the money go?
Let's back this up for a half a step. The main purpose of this meeting again was to talk about the budget process. When we at the end of that, maybe after you find out about how the budget process is built and how we get to those end numbers, maybe that might answer your question about where's the money going, because we're going to talk about that entire budget process. Is that okay with you? We start with that way? Okay. So up on that board over there, the best way to think about any given budget cycle, budget season, any fiscal year is by that screen that popped up over here. This one shows on the calendar years versus fiscal years. And the fiscal years is what we operate under a budget process. That is our quote budget. It doesn't start January 1st. It doesn't end December 31st. It goes July 1st, June 30th. So that's why you see it broken down that way. So we're right now in calendar year 19, right in the center. We're right now we've started already the preparation phase for the 20 budget. And we're doing all the other considerations that go along with it. then we're also executing. So at any given time, we're doing these overlapping periods of multiple budget seasons. So we're taking information from last year's budget where we closed out we have 17 numbers completely, with the audit is all done for 18's budget. We're working on that audit now, so we're using that information too. But we're executing 19 right now, and we're trying to prepare for 20. So we're really essentially using 18 numbers to try to build 20. But we're also taking into consideration, why you see legislative consideration in there, what's going on currently. So, for example, you have contracts that change for salt and sand, it jumps up by a significant amount. You have oil and gas prices that increase. We take into account the changing over of contracts when it comes to that. You also have changeover in legislation requirements. So we've talked about the school. Well, if the school, there's a legislation that's out there that's now requiring a capital investment back in the school that starts at 1.5% and it grows to 3%. So taking that into account, we have to make changes for the next given years. So anytime that we're pulling in the revenue streams, we have to allocate it accordingly. And so that's how the budget cycle actually works, and we do this every single year.
And one of the things with the school department budget, we have maintenance of effort. So whatever we give them 1 year has to be given to them bare minimum.
We can't.
From then to perpetuity.
Regarding that, when it comes to capital improvements, now, isn't there a capital improvement part of that is not?
Correct. Right. Capital improvements are not part of the MO, maintenance of effort.
Correct. But for the past, 3 or 4 years, our capital improvement budget has been 0.
Correct.
So we could potentially do a capital improvement budget that would not be part of that. Because I feel like a lot of people get confused.
Right. The capital improvement budgets are not part of the maintenance of effort. The maintenance of effort is for the operating budget, and not capital budgets.
Because one thing, based off of the legislation that I read, is that if we don't do a capital improvement budget, we could lose out on state money.
Well, that's why the state has mandated this, and it makes sense. And unfortunately, in our community and a bunch of others, we're all in a tough position. Now we haven't got an option. We're going to have to make that. Part of what we do is considered as part of the operating does overlap into the capital piece of it, so we can use some of it. But we're looking at probably about, I believe the number is almost $600,000 for this upcoming fiscal for this budget that's going to have to be earmarked for capital to meet that percentage that the state has put in. Which, by the way, we have MOE, state doesn't have MOE, which causes a huge problem with the budget when you get, say you get 25 million this year. That's built into their budget. That's going for salaries, for buildings, for all of the things. It's part of their budget. The following year, they could be hit and come down to 23.5 million, $1.5 million loss. Now that expenditure is still built into their budget, still has to be met, or the only other thing you can typically do in a case like that is layoffs. And that's where a lot of that comes in from, is because of the way the system is. Something we'd like to see, we've got a legislative night coming up in a couple of weeks. I'm going to try to emphasize that we need to stabilize our budgets. We need them to help and do an MOE for their aid to schools, and that way we at least know 1 year to the next where we're going to be, because we don't. Even in this, one of the problems that we face in our budgets in Coventry, that school department money from the state is not going to be finalized until very late in the whole budget process, which is it's going to cause a mess. I mean, we know what we think we're going to get. They know what they think they're going to get.
But it can change all the way up and through
March. Yeah.
It can change. So we're basing our numbers off of unfinalized figures. So by the time that March comes around, we go through our entire budget process, which we'll back into that now. Is right now all the department heads I've produced them documents requiring the personnel costs, what they're looking at going forward for next year, what changes on all of these accounting that they're looking at, and they come at me with a much bigger number than we go through that and we say, no way, no way, no way. This makes sense. Why? Contract costs, again, with the salt and sand again. I asked Kevin, I said, why are you asking for another $20,000 here? He goes, oh, fixed costs. you know, things change. I have to do a new contract. This is my cost. I have no chance. There's no way to get around it. This is it. Okay, nothing I can do about that. So that's what we do. And so we go back and forth between
Except with the school department.
Except with the school department.
We can't tell them what to do with their money.
Correct.
We only can give them the money, and they make their own budget. We have absolutely no say, no control. The council, they're basically autonomous, and they set their own on where they want to go. There have been cases in the past where they've come in and they're trying to get an additional $200,000, $300,000 for something, and the council is attempted to make an agreement. Yeah, we'll give you the 300 Gs, but you got to guarantee you're going to put it there, and they won't. They can't. They cannot do that. They don't know where it's going to be, and we don't have any control or say in that.
So another thing that piggybacking off that is that coming into this town, one of the first things that I was doing was making sure that all the financial leaders across the entire town, including the school department, so Sarah Mangiarelli and Craig, will sit down and it's open communication through the year as far as things that are coming up, things that come up on the radar. So I knew ahead of time about this capital requirement that was going to happen. Things that are going on about the constant communication. Those talking between school and town. They operate in its own capacity.
They're the only department that can do that. Every other department in town has to.
So I'll get the numbers from them, and so that's going to happen next month. So we'll get the numbers more closer to finalized figures of it. They're at the very bottom.
Yeah, what you're seeing here is like when we work off of this. There's the data. There's the department request, and they come in every single line item in their budgets. These are all done. There's hundreds and hundreds of line
4,000.
4,000. Thank you. Shitload. More than I thought. So their request comes in. All of that gets keyed into our system. From that point forward, now it turns into the manager's responsibility and the finance director. When we sit down and we're in process now, sitting down going through all of those budgets, one by one, line by line, going through. One of the things we've seen in the past, sometimes the budgets have been cut by the manager in areas where they really shouldn't have been cut because they're under contract, they've got fixed costs that have to be met, and they've been just eliminated. Well, no, you can do 20 grand less. No, it's $100,000.
Perfect example. A contract cost for, we'll just say, for example, mowing, right? There's a fixed number. That is how much we have to pay this person to cut. All right, it's just something that happens. It would be to say, oh, no, arbitrarily you're going to take it out of that amount. Well, I'm sorry, I still have to spend the money because it's under contract. Where are you going to move the money from to pay for that? Is the question.
So one of the things we're doing this year is we're making the budget more in line with the actual spending. Where before it was, oh, take it from this line item, take it from, and the whole transfer process is, depending on how it's moving and where it's coming from, can be quite complex and a pain in the butt to do because we're all paperwork involved in moving it. So that's not the appropriate way to run a budget. So we're trying to fix that. We're trying to fix the issues that we've got in areas like that.
Can I point one out in particular? Let's go to, I pulled up Department of Public Works, but a great example is the Parks and Rec one. So this is a great example.
And by the way, that is not from the council. The problem with the budget line items, that's not coming from the council. That's coming from the managers themselves. The managers themselves are the ones making those prior to it getting to the council and their approval or what their request or their changes they want to add. It's never hitting them on that. It's coming from internally where they're making those changes. So it's not on them. So that's why we're trying to do it and do it the right way.
Can you all see it? Do you want to make it a little bit bigger for you guys? So a good example is, I have line items near pipe. What is pipe? It could be just general supplies. I don't understand. So we'll get items in past years I've looked through, and you'll get all these little line items with like $100, $200 here, there, but then it gets transferred out to what it actually is, which is just general supplies. The reason now this is a great way to explain why this happens. think about it this way, if there's a department that's looking to retain some of their expenditures, right? What they'll do is they'll make sure that there's a little bit of money somewhere else because it's harder to pull that money away. So when somebody comes in and says, well, you can do better on your truck repair parts, so we're gonna cut your budget there, they'll say, well, at least I know where it is somewhere else and then move it over. But that's not what's great. It's not good to do that. It's not as transparent. So when people break it out and they say, we want to be more transparent and they do this, it's actually less. More is not always more. So what you want to do is sort of combine that, and you don't see it over here, but at the end of the year, I can see what's been transferred, what's been the allocated cost. I can see what's still remaining on the table. What you can do there is when you combine down some of these accounts to make it more applicable that are like supplies, right? You'll have, rather than metal supplies, wood supplies, other types of supplies, you can just sort of say office supplies or workshop supplies. There's the line item, that's how much it is. It's very easy to see what that changes over time. And you say, no, this is what they actually spend year over year. I see no change transfers coming out of that. So over time, it's a much more efficient budget process.
Do you put together a projection of what year
There's,
end is going to be?
yeah, so
Because why wouldn't we add a column of what our projected actual is going to be instead of comparing our next year's budget to the budget before?
So that's a problem with a lot of towns where they do 1 year over the year, like it's to do year over year. There's a 5-year rolling average built into a lot of these spreadsheets. Now this right here, what you're seeing is not just something that's spit out from Excel. This is not what I built or what is built there. There's a financial system which is about 2 decades old that we're working off of.
Well, actually, the original version was DOS-based.
Oh, so yeah.
It's probably, yeah.
So that's what we're working off of right now.
Again, yeah, we've had this since '99, I think is the year this went online, went live.
So there.
So it's been 20 years. The problem is, we're looking at stuff now, and the cost is absolutely outrageous for.
So
let's get back to the question, because
Yeah.
I have my department, so I have to do my department budget, and that's exactly what it looks like what you're saying. It's like, here's what you had approved, here's what you've spent so far, and then it says, what do you think you're gonna spend for the rest of the year?
Right.
So I put in what I think I'm gonna spend for the rest of the year, and then what do you want next year?
Right.
And, theoretically, what you spent this year plus what you think you're gonna spend is probably about what you should ask for the following year. It just doesn't show up on this, because this is more just like the finalized budget.
But I just feel like it would help taxpayers know what we're actually spending instead of,
Isn't there,
we have janitorial services for $6,000, but it says adjusted budget is $8,000, but what if our actuals was $10,000?
that shows on the statement of operations.
Right,
I
there are
pulled
reports
it.
that we pulled.
So I
that
pulled
show
statement
that.
of operations that show me exactly what's been spent, how much they're spending, and in my monthly reports that I do to the town council now, is I show exactly how much you're spending in your total budget by your statement of operations, and I break it down by department, how you're doing. I can see all of that. In that budget, I
but I'm
can,
just saying
right.
taxpayers can't.
What would you like to see?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just saying, like.
No, what I'm getting at, tell me what you like,
A
because
projected-
we'll put this up on the website, we'll do a monthly burn of our expenditures, if you wanna see that, I'll put it up there, because we get those kinds of requests on occasion.
Yeah.
But if it's something that the public would like to see, I don't wanna just clutter this thing up with a bunch of numbers that people don't understand.
I get it.
But if you tell us, you wanna see stuff like that, I'm glad you put that up for
I just
everybody.
feel like a budget to actual, a projection of where we're actually gonna be at the end of the year. Like you guys
So
are
the
saying, there's
so-
certain line items that you guys are slashing, right? But then you realize that there's a contract and then you have to pay it out, but you slashed it and you spent the money somewhere else. So at the end of the day, or at the end of the year, I should say, you spent more money than what the budget had in it originally, right?
No.
No, we never, we never, ever.
Transfer it from another.
We'll
Right.
transfer from one account to another. You will never see one of our budgets go over
But
what was
can I
budgeted.
put
We've
one
been
thing?
close a couple of years, hang on one second. We've been close a couple of years. We ended up one year with like 33,000 in the black, and one year I think it was 18,000, just the last couple of years ago. So no, because
Never
again,
overspent.
third quarter, at the half year mark, we go into overtime mode on tracking what's going on, where the cost versus the revenues coming in, where we are, to make sure that we never, ever go over.
Correct.
We'll put a 3-month, 4-month freeze on spending, and we've done that several years in a row to make sure that that we don't. So no, you won't see,
Well, I guess my question comes from sewers, because you know, just as well as I know.
that's a whole different animal.
I understand, but we transferred 2.6 million in 16 to a sewer fund that was going bankrupt.
It wasn't all, that all wasn't transferred in 16.
In
It showed
the
on the
statement-
books,
in
it
the
showed on the
statement.
books on 16.
Correct.
It actually occurred the year, it's part of
My
the year
point is, we
before.
overspent, and we had to cover those bills.
One of, again,
That's a different, it's a completely.
and that's something we are looking at, working on, because that,
Well, you're saying that, but it did come out of the general fund, is my point.
Correct,
So it's not a 100% different thing, because it came out of our funds.
correct. And it's a business enterprise funds, which never should have been that, it actually should be generating revenues, it should be, all that other stuff that should be in line, and it should be run as a business enterprise fund. It
and again,
should.
that's one of our biggest issues that we are dealing with right now. And I'm hoping that we're projected to be in the black this year.
Yep.
Not by a lot, but we're projected to be in the black this year.
Even
Generating
Well, we're
inclusive of
seeing
us
so
putting
far.
more money in the sewer fund,
Because we
inclusive of
changed,
putting the money in the sewer fund, we still don't
we
see the money.
right,
So we're taking it from lines where, say we budgeted $5,000 over there, well, really, we spent 4 and 1,000 of it goes to that.
Oh, no.
Sewer fund. No, where's it come from then?
it's a transfer from the general fund, the reserve,
Oh, from the reserves.
from the reserve, so it's not out of operating, it does come out of the reserve, is where the,
Correct.
it's still coming out of.
You're right, it's still coming out of our quote reserves. That's correct, and it should not be.
I think that's.
There's a difference in there, though, because it's like,
You know, that's what makes everyone concerned.
You
because
have-
Where's the money going, like we said, to something that shouldn't be
well,
getting
when you
money,
have,
that's where
when
problem
you,
comes from.
when, there's an approval there's an approval to spend money with a bonding debt. And from what I understand, that goes to the towns, is to approve a bonded debt. So when the town approves a bonded debt, and then on the other side of that, there's not an approval to increase the revenues to pay for said debt, you're gonna have a negative at the end, because the positives are not equaling that out. So, they're
Hence
in the
the negative that I'm talking about,
Right,
with us
So
overspending
part
at
of
the end
that-
of the day.
so
That's
part
all
of-
my point was.
I agree with that, but when we're talking the general budget, we're talking interdepartment, outside of like like debt service and things of that nature, we cannot, like, I can't take money from, Department of Public Works and then hand it over to, the Parks and Rec. I have to go to the town council, explain exactly why it's happening, exactly why, and then after all that scrutiny, then I can possibly do it. Interdepartment, though, however, is a little different. They can transfer things interdepartment. So, for example, we'll use Public Works again. You know, there's a pothole that pops up, right? And they just didn't have enough money in their asphalt budget for it. So, you know, they need to put the money in asphalt budget, but guess what? They didn't spend as much money on office supplies or something. They said, you know, I can pull $100 from here, make sure I can buy enough asphalt to fill this hole. They can do that. That's allowed. I mean, you know, it makes things more efficient than going every single time. Like,
The way
hey,
that-
$50 from here.
The way the accounting system works, in fact, they cannot put a requisition in
Correct.
and go negative on the line item. It
Correct.
stops it.
Yep.
The system, so the money has to be in the account for them to be able to spend it. That's why on the general operating, you'll never see it go in the hole. Something like the sewer fund, where that is a transfer out of the reserve fund, the general fund, then it comes out of there, so that, and again, there is the money in there, which is about $12 million, counting the,
$12 million counting the,
the 2.9 million that's owed to the fund
correct, because it's
from
in that.
the sewer fund. Again, that's.
But that's something, by the way, that is something that, since I came in here, and Ben has been here too, tirelessly is a good word for it, it's always on our mind. And how we're gonna fix it, and how we're gonna work on it. As he stated, there's some changes that we can make that will actually turn into the black. There's a future rate study that's coming out, but right now, things are kind of at just a stop. So I will not do anything until the OIG is done with their letter, and they say, you know, whatever their recommendation is. I've actually told them over the phone countless times, I will not do anything until I get your recommendation letter. I'm not gonna do it. I know what I can do, I know I can make things better, but considering the appetite and where people are in this town, I will not do it. regardless if it would be
We
smart.
need to get that
And
report in
the
before.
definition of in the black means
The,
just current year expenses.
Correct.
Because we
Correct.
have
Correct.
tens of millions of dollars in debt associated with the sewers.
yeah, well, if you're talking full bonded debt, yeah. It's
And
20.
we owe West Warwick 7.3 mil.
Well, yes, that is true as well. The piece that we have with them
So I just, in the black just means we can.
means
cover
that
operating.
operating wise,
Operating budget.
year over year,
Operating budget.
We don't spend
But-
more than we take.
yeah.
But
So
you're- again-
technically, if you own a house, you're in you owe more than you take in. But if you make more money that's going out and you can pay for said amount, then that's where we're at. So yes,
Paying
we
your
owe
mortgage,
money,
as opposed to
but
paying it off.
we're paying it off.
But again, the bonds are set up on the sewer enterprise fund, the bonds are set
Should be
up
paying itself.
on the 20-year cycle, which in theory is supposed to be paid by all of those assessments and covering that bond debt, because that's what the bonds were taken out for,
Yep.
to build the infrastructure. The assessments are supposed to at least equal the expense.
Mhm.
As you're well aware from what the research and the work you did on it, Jamie, I know, it's just, there were a lot of years, a lot of bonds that were passed, and assessments were never, ever put anywhere near where they needed to be
Correct.
to fund that one bond. Multiply it out by number of bonds that we've got, and yeah, we end up in the boat that we ended up with.
Yeah.
This council, the last council took a lot of flack, I know this council's gonna end up taking a lot of flack. They're not the ones that created. There may be members on that were on in the past, but the councils that were, the most recent and then this new one, are not the ones who created this this deficit in that. It's the ones where assessments should have been, say, $7,500 for a two-family, or a three-bedroom house. And they set it at $3,000 because they don't want the political ramifications of it. That's been the reality, that's where it's been caused. And I think everybody's gonna, preliminarily, I don't think anything's gonna come back from the AG that anything was done illegal.
Yep.
There may have been some
They
less
could be
than
tightened
smart
off.
moves made, but I'll be surprised if anything comes back about illegal activity or anything that went down there. And if it does, then the chips will fall where they fall, if anything does happen, what has to be done will be done.
Yep.
But I'll be shocked if anything comes back on that, because my understanding, then I don't believe they've seen anything or found anything, and they have gone through everything. They, in fact, recently.
Ask Mo. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we still communicate with them. We're fully transparent on anything they ask for. I'll give them anything that they want to see. We haven't heard anything, right, that it would be considered extremely negative from them.
Not at all.
It's been sort of
Management.
just better management of it, and even possibly we could use another person, because you have Mo, you have somebody else that's trying to, it's a lot of work that needs, it's somebody and should be doing this, but we don't have the personnel to do it. So, that's part of it.
Next.
I'd like to throw out too is, I understand sewer is a big deal, but there's a big deal as well that's even much bigger when you look at the full Moody's report as far as the view of the town, and that's the pension liability that's sitting out there for the school, the police, are the two biggest ones. So,
But the recent Moody's report, the specific reason for what they issued on October 4th was specifically related to the sewer operations.
both. They include both.
It did include both, there was, and again, which one's bigger?
Well, the pension, but
Yeah, but I mean, as far as which one had a bigger effect on getting that knock from them
Yeah.
on their thing. They never specified to us on which one it was,
No.
that just those were the two key
Yep.
reasons. The pension funds, if you look over the last several years, those pension funds have gotten substantially better over the last, I mean, the police pension
Police
fund at
was
one
somewhat-
point, just a few years ago, was less than 10% funded. That I believe is up to
19.9.
Yeah. So that's made some significant improvements, as well as the municipal side has made some, and again, we've changed on the municipal side. There no longer is anyone going into that pension anymore. It's all a,
Contribution base.
yeah. So that's changed, so that's actually frozen there. The employees that are in it now, the current employees that are in it are the last ones, and we currently have, how many employees, a dozen?
Yeah, there's not a lot on that one.
But we're already up to like the last 12 or 13, it's been, the last person that's in that pension is, Cody Horton, that works in IT, and Cody's been here almost 5 years, so for 5 years almost, there's nobody else going in that, it's simply a defined contribution
Correct.
plan and no longer defined benefit.
Which is why that one right there is, I believe, 42.5%. And so besides that, you have something called, we call it the ARC, but it's the required contribution to that pension plan. So what happens is money comes in, we have to put it towards a trust. And that trust, it generates revenues, right? And so that investment fund increases revenue, so that grows over the long term to meet whatever that, in 20 years from now, when everybody retires and then they have their benefits, it can pay out according to that. So that way, in 20 years from now, you're not stuck with millions upon millions of dollars that's going out, and you have to fund every single year because it comes from over here.
One of the good things with us, with emergency services, is we have almost no OPEB.
Correct.
On the police side, which is a huge saving, which is the post-employment benefits, the medical that typically
The medical
that police
liability
officers
for long
receive,
term.
either for up to 60, 65, life in some cases. We don't have any of that. When the officers in Coventry retire, they get zero for medical benefits. They get their pension and their pension only, so they don't have those. So those costs, like you look at some communities, their OPEB costs are nearly as much as the pension cost. We have none of that in this town, so that's a good thing. Again, not having fire being a separate entities with those 4 groups, they handle all of that themselves. We're not on for any of that. So that helps to keep ours down. Municipal has no COLA in their pension. Police do, they do have a 3%
COLA means cost of living
increase, and they got an annual increase that compounds that amount that they receive.
Okay.
Municipal side, when they go out, when they retire, whatever that set amount is that they retire at, they're locked into that until they're no longer with us.
They're no longer with us, right? Until they retire again.
Yeah, the final retirement. So we're lucky in that respect that we have that, we don't have those which are going to start showing up in these financial.
So you'll see them on the financial statements. You have one behind you. So we put these up every year. So this is at the end of the year, we do the audit process again. Everything that you need to know is really in there. It actually shows in your interdepartment as well what your expenditures are for every department in there. If there is grant money that comes in, it shows exactly which department got the money. There's a breakdown as far as the school, all the grants that they get, it's in there too. There's a statistical section in the back, and then there's an entire there's a huge chunk of that entire thing. I'd probably say about half of it feels like are notes, and those notes section really describe a lot of the pension the pension details, the long-term liabilities, what's going on, and all that. So if you really want to get well versed in what's going on, that's your Bible. Year over year, that's your Bible. It's been there. So that's, and if you look at that one, if you flip through that one, that's what I've been in. My nose has been in that for the past since I got in here. I've just been studying it. So
that shows more of the stuff that you were asking about before, like what's the actuals, what moved around, like as opposed to like here's our budget, here's what we expected to spend, but then they audit it and they're like, well, here's what you really spent, and then like he's saying, it tells you all the notes of like why this moved from here, and so that's kind of more telling of exactly what happened as opposed to the budget, which is more of a projection of how we expected all the finances to
correct. But I do understand a need to show the expenditures by those line items. You can see what those are. And if we put it up in this way, we probably should put a little asterisk on that that says what you'll see is a little asterisk over to the side and that little star. And it doesn't look exactly like this, but it's set up in a similar way. It'll say your original budget, and then it'll say you're adjusted, so what we recommended and then what got actually approved, and you'll see the difference here. So that will be what you're going off of, that's your actual, and then you'll have over to the side is what you've spent year to date. And then off to the other side, you'll see the percentage difference. So the thing that for you, Jamie, was that you'll see an asterisk. An asterisk would indicate there was some form of a transfer in there, and you'll see a dollar figure in the brackets. So you'll see that.
When's the 18 financial statements gonna be issued by?
I've been trying to get them out, but they would have already been done, but I've got to do this transparency portal with the state of Rhode Island. So it's probably going to be no later than the second week of February. That's the only piece, and I'll tell you right now. So all this is already done. It's actually 168 pages now. What I'm working on, and the only thing that's holding it up is this transparency portal, which is this. All this is not changing. All this is not changing. I just have to put it into a format that is required by the state and restate everything just for these 3 pages. Just telling you what the holdup is. There's nothing different. So.
Do you know if there's any restatements?
Any what?
Is there a restatement footnote this year?
I don't think there is. There's no other restating of any dollar figure. No.
Only reason why I asked is because the past 8 years there's been 7.
7 restatements? Are you talking the notes section?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, there's always note sections. There's always a note section.
No, a restatement footnote, which means that the auditors missed something and they have to restate last year's numbers. But I just want to know.
Nothing that we've been told about.
None that I've been told about, none that I've
Nothing
seen.
that we've been told about so far.
Okay.
Nothing that I've seen. Thanks. I was reading that one.
I can send you an email.
That works. No, the dollar figures, so from what I've seen and what I've teased out and what I've reviewed already for 18, well, if you're talking about restatements, if you're talking about the adjustments at the end of the fiscal year, but that's different. You're talking about an actual restatement of prior fiscal years.
Yeah, prior orders that they had to make a new one.
Which makes our current year not look as
so
good as
I
they said that it was going to be.
can't think of anything like that.
That's good.
That's never come up in a single conversation that I've ever had with them. And I talked with them for like an hour and a half on Friday, yesterday, so.
One of my biggest concerns with the 16 statements that I talked to your predecessor about was the amount that we owed to West Warwick.
Yeah.
We've been in that agreement since 1983, and it had never been disclosed until people started asking about that debt.
Interesting.
And it's finally in the 17 statement.
Because it's an inter-community agreement.
Intermunicipal.
Yeah. So because of that
But it's a
general
contract.
offer, yeah.
It's significant.
It is significant and it should have been disclosed. Agreed.
Right. So I just.
There's something else that's going to be included in this, another one that wasn't in the last one that's being disclosed. So.
I just think more transparency is best.
Yeah, agreed. But there's a difference though, because being transparent, you sit in the office and I tell you everything that I do day in, day out. I generate reports, show everything that I'm doing all the time. It's pulling away from the actual duties of what I'm trying to accomplish, and therefore it's a less efficient outcome. So even if you're trying your best to tell exactly what's going on, there's got to be a balance there. So we'll do what we can, and hence why we are all sitting here. We're doing our best that we possibly can.
Well, one of the problems with a lot of the record requests, under state law, you're well aware what it is, but just for the public, if anyone's watching this, we can charge $15 an hour after the first hour. First hour is free, and then we can charge for copies of anything. But most of the time, it's not paper; it's electronic.
Yeah,
most of it.
We'll just drop it.
But you'll take a situation where, I mean, it may require John to be involved for 20 hours worth of work to generate what's wanted. at $15 an hour. We're paying them a hell of a lot more than $15 an hour. We lose a ton of money on these things. They're very time consuming. And I know like during some of the requests that you had, we put some, estimated cost out to you before we would do it. And the reason for that is, we're only getting back a fraction of what it's actually costing us. We've had a number of cases where we have spent a substantial amount of time generating this stuff, and then when you contact the person and say, come on in and get it, I don't want it now, I don't need it. So that's why we've moved over to requesting payment in advance on any of the lengthy ones.
That's a state requirement too,
On,
the anything over an hour, and it's not just a.
oh yeah, no, that's
Yeah,
that's
no,
something we,
I'm trying to let them know that
Yeah.
that's a state thing.
one of the things I'd like to see is that we'd be able to charge,
Actually cost.
the actual cost of the thing. Like, our costs are high, but it gets even worse when, like, if we get a request for emails, okay? Those have to be scanned and viewed by our attorney before we release anything involving an email. Now, we're paying him $1.50 an hour. I'm getting back 10% of that if I'm lucky, if I'm lucky. It's huge money, and so, like, we're not trying to not give it to you. I'd much rather have somebody come in and, here you go, I'll set you up somewhere and go to town, because it's not gonna, it's killing us, of course, on some of these things. And you'd be shocked at how many requests we get on this stuff. A lot of businesses want data for marketing purposes. Again, it usually takes less than an hour. It's all for the moment.
But that's also time that if we're trying to review a contract, we're looking at wind turbines, we're looking at landfill, we're looking at doing budgets, I'm doing audit. You're taking an hour out of a day that I'm trying, I have requirements that we have to report by. You're taking time away from that for something else.
And that's,
So
Not
that's
just the money.
It's
The
not just the
efficiency
money,
that-
it's an
that-
efficiency
the whole-
problem too.
I
I'm not saying that, by the way, anybody want information, I'm more than happy to have it.
Is there a line item for that
For what?
in the budget?
recovery
It's
match?
general
We
operating
do it every
expenses.
single year.
Well, we never know how much, we never know what we're gonna get for requests.
I know,
There, I
but we
mean-
do like a 5-year look back to see what our average.
It's jumped all over the place. It's jumped all over,
Yeah,
if it's something, if we got a hot topic going on like the sewers, we got inundated, we get tons of them. Some years we'll have very little, we'll get the normal routine one, like,
There's the one that comes in every quarter.
and that one I've already built, I just built a report, generates it out, we ship it right out to them, it doesn't take us any time.
Yeah.
30 seconds, it's out the door. So the ones like that, actually, as much of a pain that they are, we make it to the point where we make it easier for us to get them out and more efficient on getting them out. It's those ones that,
Special request.
yeah, that come in and that want, I'd like to see everything about X. The way, you're familiar with the law, but some people aren't. We're not obligated to generate or produce data, or documents and analyze data for the public if they want to. We're only obligated to give what we've got. So if the system doesn't generate a report for X, we don't have to give what they want. So there are some cases where we can't meet it, we just cannot meet it, because it doesn't exist and we don't have to, thankfully.
90.
Any other questions? We want this for you guys, so you get a chance to see, ask, and just get people to understand what's going on. Last year we had, like I said, we had a lot of misinformation out there that just, I don't wanna see that this year. I want people to have faith with what they're being told is the truth, that we're being honest. And I think I've been here 15 years. They are, but for some reason, somehow, people don't wanna believe us at times, and.
You always get that skepticism.
I'm gonna tell you right now, my general voting habits when I vote is general skepticism. Right? I'll tell you straight up honestly. So I understand, but there's a part of it here, the rapport piece, that we're here trying to make the best for the town. I mean, that's what we're here for. So when you produce,
Jail's not a good place to go.
well, I have not known. But the thing is that when we're gonna when we submit, when we go out there and we show y'all what work we've done towards this budget, and we show that there's no arbitrary number that's in there. The numbers there's a foundation, there's a reason. It's been viewed multiple times for it. So that's what you appointed the council, and then that council then picks somebody, and then you have the team underneath that work really hard and are really well aware of everything that's going on, and we're here for you guys. We're working our hearts out for y'all, so that's my piece. I've noticed it already. I've only been here 4 months, but
You can always tell what kind of day he's having, it's great. Comes in, the hair's all done up, it looks good. At the end of the day, it's flopping down on the side.
I cut my hair.
I know you did, because it
When I
was,
first came in here, I had the hair that came back, and yeah, no, that wasn't lasting. It got cut off. It's been a quote challenge.
when he was hired, he was told, it's gonna be a lot, it's gonna be crazy, it's nuts. Oh, I'm looking forward to a challenge.
I can't believe I said I look forward to a challenge.
You got the challenge, good luck.
Well, the problem, it was vacant before he got here for a while too.
Yeah,
right?
it was vacant
I mean,
for
that's not
several
easy
months.
to take over.
We, again, trying to get the right person for the job with experience, the knowledge, and the drive to go in and do. I'm not gonna knock any prior finance directors, but I will say some of them were, not as good as others, let me just put it that way. And things that happened and things that slid by, they probably shouldn't have, because of the fact that the attitude and a laid back style.
There are late nights. I mean, I've worked.
I'm getting emails
more.
from Chucklehead at 3:30 in the morning where he's working on it. It's like, really, dude? I'm not up at 3:30. 2 maybe, but not 3:30, and he's still.
Hey, if numbers don't tie out, it bothers me until they tie out. So anyway, sorry. That's just me. It's the Marine in me. I don't stop until it's done. Anything else? Questions?
Maybe a dumb kind of question, but I mean.
Nothing's done.
Well, I mean, I'm an IT guy, I'm not a finance person.
Cool.
So, I have a hard enough time with my own budget, so to speak, but do you like a budget for dummies? Like, okay, this is what we took in, this is what, I don't hear that, auto and gas and lube was spelled out. Some people may be like, Jamie might, because he can understand it. I wanna know, okay, this is what the town took in, this is what the town took for grants, this is what the town took out, and then.
There was like a summary sheet.
Yeah, I'm actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do me.
That's the detail.
Do that on board.
It's on that report too. But
Like huge binder, I'm never gonna sit down and look at that.
No, this is online. This is actually the best thing for you. This really is. If you go to this, in here on the summary sheet, right? It'll tell you what our revenues are and what actually happened, actual revenues.
Okay.
It actually breaks it down by all the licensing fees and everything like that. It's only 3 pages. This is the best summary
That's
of
right
what's
online?
going on. It's right online. And after the next financial reports come out, you can see all this, and you can see what the actual expenditures are, the next page. It breaks everything all down for you. All right? It's the best way to actually show, without getting into too much detail, it's literally just these couple pages. Now, you can get really detailed, and you can go into the other part, which are these other things called GASB 54.
Now, does it do it over year, so you can see what the increases each year were? I mean, that's what you guys do.
Yeah, a few years,
Drive
right? Don't you do a
costs
few years
down
right now?
versus increasing revenue. Like a
Correct.
regular company, like my company.
Right.
We're gonna drive costs down because people are,
There are
efficient people are not gonna buy your product every year at an increased price. They wanna know, what are you doing to bring the cost down? So what are we doing to bring our costs down and drive revenue up without going to the tax rate, like, hey, here's another 15%,
So
tax.
efficiency gains,
So we
there's-
want revenue though.
you can't just be, so again, but when you're talking about, let's compare this to a private business sector, even though municipalities and general government, it's not a one-to-one, but we're gonna do our best. If you're in a private sector and you're trying to buy a product, right? You're not gonna, as you said, you're not gonna spend the same amount of money year over year for the exact same product, or if the quality's going down, you're gonna go to a different product. One thing that you could do here in the town is you can generate efficiencies and create a better product at a cheaper rate by generating better efficiencies. The problem is that unlike a private sector, there are constraints against, we'll say, increasing the efficiencies on, let's say, wages. I can't just say freeze and not pay out and increase wages, because under contract, I have to increase wages over time. My costs are going to grow over time. It's just how it is. Those are labor union contracts. I have no choice. That is how it is.
And that is the biggest piece.
That is a
Any
huge
budget.
driving factor. If you look at our wages, if you look at the wages in operations, the FICA, the Med, that is the driving factor and a lot of stuff that happens. So our hands are tied. There's no way around it. So that I would say is the first thing. When it comes to cost savings, you have efficiencies in technology, but as you just said, you're in IT. Technology sometimes isn't cheap, and even if you invest in one form of technology, there might next year be something new. So you have to have a rolling kind of a plan with that. As of right now, it's kind of hard to do that because there's not a lot of excess funds to go ahead and do that. So you have to pick something that gets the job done, but may not get it done as well as you might want it to. But it gets the job done because it's at its cheapest cost.
It's hard for government to make big investments that you're gonna see a return 5 to 10 years from now. That's a big piece of the puzzle too. The budget's 1 year over 1 year. So if you can't return on investment that year, it's hard to justify, hey, listen, we're gonna spend 300 grand, make a whole new accounting system, it's gonna be so much better. Well, where are you getting 300 grand from? You don't have it. Well, you can't do it then. So you're stuck with the old one, and you have these inefficiencies, and you just.
And so you have in a municipality and governments, you have the inertia of a decision that you have, and that creates other constraints around town. So, long-winded answer of saying it's not. You can't just make the changes that you'd want to as you would in a business. There are constraints that we just can't do.
If you look at our labor force on the municipal side, it's actually gone down from 10, 15 years ago. We probably had an extra 10 people.
I just want to also point out that I might go super nerdy here. I'm going to try not to, but as people come in, right? You can output more. Now, it does come at a cost, but you can bet the return on that one person investment is great. We're at a point right now where the people that are in here are working 2-3 times what they're supposed to be doing. Like they're working hard every single day. You can't just I know from in here, personally in here, where I'm seeing, even if I could, I wouldn't. I mean, there's nothing to
There's
cut.
There's nobody left in the whole building. I mean,
I'll give you an example. Monique's department.
Yeah.
She has herself and two other clerks. There used to be a full-time clerk, additional,
And we had.
and a part-time that was about half-time. So she's lost a person and a half, still doing just the same amount of work out of there, collecting the same amount on the taxes, doing it, and actually
more work because when you add on sewer, there's more people that come on, and it gets more and more complex over time. So it's more workload over here. So the job itself is not staying the same. It's changing over time. Obviously, things change. So everybody over there is almost overtasked already. So
and what does that lead to?
It is, exactly. We are all in the same. We do called OPAL that manages all of our tax assessor, tax collector, building permit software, and sewer software, all coming out of the same company. It's written in Visual Box Pro. Okay? You know exactly.
Okay.
I don't even have to say anymore, okay? I'm beating the snot out of this thing, keeping it running. We've looked at who's out there to get an updated package. Typically, we found units and a couple of other small companies we're looking at well over $100,000 just on the tax package.
My company was up until a couple of years ago was running on OpenVMS.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're quite a large, much bigger than this, town, but you can run on old stuff.
You can, exactly. We do.
We've been doing it.
Let me say this though. We ran into a monster challenge with this stuff because it's a flat, non-relational database. Okay? You start moving up. I upgraded the servers 4 years ago, and when we did, this thing just blew up in our faces. It turned to mush because it doesn't like relational OS is designed for relational databases running multiple, and we spent weeks getting this to run at least semi-efficiently so they can operate and collect. We run workstations in some places here that are 7 years old.
So as far as
we don't just go out and spend money. One of the bigger problems we face, and it's just simply the nature of the beast. The school department is over 70% of the budget. I mean, that's where, because it's simply because of numbers. They've got 500 teachers. I mean, it's the
And then and then their cost goes up too, because, you know, now you have other things like 20 years ago, you don't have to worry about active shooter kind of stuff. Now you're dealing with how all those trainings and other types of emergency plans are going. But that's a little digressing a little bit.
But
But
no,
yeah,
the point being is that we only control, again, because we have no control over that, MOE, here you go, you got it. We've got a small piece of the total amount of the budget that's controlled on the municipal side. Last year, it amounted to about $19 million of the taxes collected in this town went to run the muni side, the rest came from other.
70 million.
Stuff from the state and everything else. But yeah, I think it was 19 million and change, Chris.
Out of 7, I don't know what you put towards the.
No, just the muni side out of the $29 million muni budget. It was like 19 million was from town revenue, taxes revenue. I don't like the calling taxes revenue, because it really.
So John, instead of, you know, always going after cutting benefits and cutting employees,
yeah.
have you thought of, maybe stricter?
I was using that just as an example.
On, stricter rules on the senior tax freeze?
So the senior tax freeze.
And maybe actually, people have to have a federal form or some type of actual claim rather than just like a lovely note saying that they're disabled?
They don't even have to be disabled, they only have to be 65.
I was on a board, we spent hours.
Oh, I know, but
Yeah,
nothing
but they,
came from it though.
no, because they don't wanna do it.
I understand that,
And
but
that's the
my
problem.
point
Your
is,
question
instead of
is,
coming after the other piece of the taxpayers
Yeah.
to fund 3.3% or 4% every single year for the past 5 years, I don't understand why. I understand kind of because it's political, but as the taxpayers that are taking the full brunt of other taxpayers not paying their piece, something has to change, and that's one way that that's possible.
Let me just put this out there.
Additional revenues without increasing our tax rate.
So let me.
Where else
Chris,
do we get revenue from as a town though, besides taxes?
Time out, stop real quick. Within the first month and a half after I came in here, I found out about this tax freeze. I had Chris take a look at this. We did a quick look back at about how much money is totally like not supported in any one given year that has to be redistributed to everybody else. And I think the number came out to about $1.7 million that
Between $1 million and $2 million.
yeah, something like that, any given year. I would love, personally, I've looked at that, and I would personally love to make it more of an income-based piece. I personally think that would be a great thing to do, because as of right now, the way it looks like it's set up is that it's set up to supplement the inheritance, not to help people as they should. But again, all right, I'm getting too deep. The answer is yes, I'm looking at it, but at the same time, there's so many other things but if, let's say that we just removed that and we went back to the other side, we're talking only a few cents on the dollar that gets pulled down. Yes, it's something, it's a few cents.
I mean, but you guys are looking for money.
Right. Well, again, that money is it's the same money that comes in. It's not.
We're looking for a better way to distribute the burden.
Yeah, I mean,
what you're talking
you
about.
could do like
That
the first
distribution.
200,000 valuation for every senior. You could do it that way too. I mean, that's the
There are-
way of doing it.
So
We are actually looking at a number of different things.
Yeah, we've got a lot of.
We've got a lot
ideas.
going on that, because that is something that we've looked at. We know what those kinds of numbers are. They're big.
But it's
We
not
are
executive
looking-
side policy, it's legislative.
Exactly.
This is why you have people like him and the other town council.
It would have to be legislative. It should make any of those. They're not policies in my assessment.
It has to. No, that actually has to go out to.
It comes out of the town
vote.
code.
Doesn't it have to go to vote?
No, it doesn't. It has to get, the ordinance has to change.
Right.
The
And the council has to approve it. But to
Council
say,
would
but
do
then
that.
now look at the politics side. So, hey, let's take away the tax freeze for everybody over 65 and make it, you have to have a certain income. Well, guess what? The constituents are gonna say, no, we don't want you to do that. And so it's hard to get this, so it has to be presented in such a way that it doesn't hurt the people that are on it, but the freeze, in my opinion, as a tax assessor, a freeze it shifts the burden too much in a certain way, whereas if you can still give them a break, but yes, make the rules stricter so that not everybody can get on it.
Right.
Instead of a freeze, maybe just be a reduction, a percent reduction, a dollar reduction.
You can also
so
do
that when
grandfathering too.
yeah, and that's absolutely part of it, yeah. It would probably have to be something like a phase-out kind of thing, but what ends up happening is if you just freeze these guys here, and you have a quarter of the town frozen, like you're saying, only 3/4 of the town bears that increase every time.
You got it.
And it's okay to give exemptions for certain things, But a freeze, in my opinion, and this is just my personal opinion,
Yeah.
a freeze is
This is not the policy of the town. of
No,
Groton.
Yes, exactly, this is it.
That's the policy of the
Just so
town
we're
of Coventry,
clear.
is obviously to get the freeze order.
Yeah.
Please voters, nobody is trying.
Yeah.
This is Chris's personal interpretation.
And this is the financial director
The
as well.
former
just
tax collector, tax assessor.
And this was me as well.
It's hard to evenly, to be fair and equitable, like I'm supposed to do it, to distribute that burden. It's hard to do it when the freeze becomes so much of it. If you had 5% of the town on the freeze, it's no problem. You 10, maybe that's not a problem.
That's not okay.
We're past the 25% point, I think.
I understand that.
We're somewhere upwards of that area, so now.
Well, I believe the last
Starting
number I
to
saw was
become a
like
problem.
26% on the freeze. It's a big number, it's a big number, the amount of money that's, every year when we run the certification, we get to see in living color just how big that number is and the amount of tax that's not being generated for the town based on that. Again, it's something that was in a substantial amount of time ago, it's something that's been there, and pulling back something that's a benefit, and that is what's considered to a lot of people, and it is, and it's needed by some people to keep them in their
Which
houses.
is why income, like John said, would make
Yep.
more sense. 'Cause then-
Right, the theory behind it was to keep the houses in the hands of the people without kids going back into the school system.
Correct.
And that's
Not
the
the
purpose
detriment
of
of
it,
the town.
and that's why, okay, we give it a break, we're up to 15,000 a child right now. I haven't got that exact number on what the cost is.
Right, so I guess if you look at it like that, and the guy's got a freeze and he's paying $1,000 a year, but then he sells the house and Mr. and Mrs. Smith with that 3 kids come in, costs us $45,000 a year.
Present information and then it's best as we
It'll
can,
be-
but it's a legend.
With our financial statements. If you, cities and towns in the state of Rhode Island,
Start a lot of these communities that are
going back to your last comment about
The actual, even if it's a pay-as-you-go system,
Yeah.
they still have to disclose it, so.
savings for 7.
the vast majority of that comes out of the school side, that's not on the muni side.
Correct.
On the muni side,
There's
the
5
only,
people, I think.
the 5 people that are
Five.
receiving
5.
any type of medical benefits for, they were retired, a couple of retired chiefs and a couple of officers who
Yep.
were injured,
Injured on the line of duty.
permanently injured
or
on the
anything.
job, and that's it. So you're not gonna see, you take communities like, actually, there's 4 departments that don't pay medical. That's it, out of the 39. 35 do pay for retirement, medical, and dental, and the whole bit, so.
Oh, yeah.
When those
Thank
costs
you.
get factored into their financials, you're gonna see a shifting of, that numeric order, I think, in some cases substantial.
To your question at hand, what was it before we cut you off? What about that, the 30 out of 31?
For 17, our liabilities exceeded our assets by $120 million.
Correct.
So as a financial person, that scares me.
Mhm.
Because to me, a net position tells you the financial health of our town.
Mhm.
And I just feel like we need to come up with ways to make sure that doesn't continue to increase.
Okay,
Because
again.
if you look at the last 5 years, all it has done has skyrocketed.
So
And
again, those,
James,
again, the
what
push.
did you, looking at those financials though, what did you see what caused it?
Restatements,
Yeah,
of
okay.
adding pension plans and the pension liability associated with it.
And what else?
Also, sewer debt
Okay.
also was included in that.
Bonds,
Bonds, yep.
bonds issued by the town
I understand.
are,
I just think, granted, we have like 35,000 residents and only 5 people showed up today. I just feel like more people.
4.
What was that?
4.
Yeah, what, I
Oh,
thought
sorry.
it was
Four showed up.
But anyways.
I almost won, because I said I expected 5.
I said 4, so what do I
Yeah, you
get?
win. Unfortunately, I mean.
Nothing though.
I'm disappointed.
I would rather more people come on.
Extremely disappointed
That-
by the fact
that's
that
what we
there's only 4
wanted.
of you out there.
I just feel like
That's kinda-
we need to, when we're thinking of contracts, police, teachers, town employees, I mean, I understand we have to create a contract, but I feel like you also need to do a financial presentation to them to say, we can't afford those step increases, or we can't afford to include your spouse in some benefits. Like, but I feel like it still gets signed, and then the taxpayers are left footing the bill.
We recently negotiated the 3-year contract with the IBPO in town. And they fully understood the financial position of the town and the situation that we're all in. I mean, they were very reasonable. We were able to come up to what I thought was a very good contract. It amounted to about a 2% raise for them for each of the next 3 years.
Just about inflation.
Yeah, barely covering, and that pretty much is the end of what that contract additional cost. Did we pull back from some of it? Again, we've got a situation with our police. It is one of the biggest pieces of our budget for municipal, $11-12 million, what it is. But I look at what those officers, you go to any other community or 35 other communities in this state, you're receiving medical for at the very least until 62, and in a lot of cases for life, for your spouses. They don't have that. They tried to get it, they wanted it this year, they understood that we can't do it. It's something that just is not feasible. So those costs for our police department are actually, again, post-retirement, are much smaller than anywhere else. So I think we've done
the teachers too.
Please?
The teachers' contract is pretty rich as well.
That's teachers.
We're
talking municipalities.
So that's the whole thing, we're the town, we're 30% of that budget.
We're
30% of that budget we have no control over. And that's a big
saying
split.
all inclusive, I wasn't
I agree.
picking on one.
I agree. And you look at the last contract and the cost. Again, not a big increase. They received about a 2% increase for each of the 3 years, give or take. I think the first year.
It's not just salaries.
Believe me, we could talk one day. I know. But again, it wasn't a substantial percentage increase, but because of the numbers of teachers, it's just simple math, and the numbers are big. The cost is big.
I will also just
because of how many
throw
there
something
are.
out there real quick. If you haven't talked to Sarah Mangiarelli, or if you've talked with her a little bit, Sarah, who's the financial director over there for the schools, I talk with her on a regular basis. She's really good. She knows what she walked into too. She walked into some corrections that she had to take on, and some things that should have been recognized before, and things like that. That they're correcting things over there too. So, I don't want to just sound like we're hammering only one.
Not hammering. They've done a great job.
They've done a great job too.
To keep the cost down. I'm very impressed on what they've done.
The communication, now that we're hearing from it, they're working their butts off to get that.
The last couple of years with Sarah there, she's been a great addition over there. Craig Levis, superintendent, I mean, we are working closer than I've seen in a long time in the town between the municipal and school side. No, I'm not knocking them. I'm just, the facts are the facts. I mean, the cost of the contract is the cost of the contract. I mean, it's not good, bad, it is what it is.
Cost, now we have to factor it in when we start doing our.
How, again?
What happened?
No, I just put something in the wall. It was the rest of the people coming in.
But yeah, we're all looking at that, and it's literally what I spend my days doing. It's looking for any penny anywhere. He's yelling at me a few times, and I start talking about spending something, and I say, well, why? Why do I do this? He's like, you are a cheap person. I ask Penny sometimes, like, why are we doing that?
One of the things that takes place with us, and I don't know how it's run in every community, every single rep that for purchase of anything, and I mean anything, has to be approved by a department head and then by myself before it gets to John to get paid. I had one the other day, and I'm screaming as I got the wreck. It was for $1.59. It was for somebody who had bought 12 of the rubber fingers. Really, that's the whole order? You get 12 rubber fingers for $1.59. But it's as simple as everything is reviewed. We look at all of that.
Did you approve it?
We already had the fingers.
Find it cheaper.
We had fingers, so I mean,
We found I found a case during my Latin when I first started as interim manager. They were charging us for federal tax on fuel, which is.
Don't worry, I'm waiting for that to come back. I've already started processing, but sort of.
We got back $12,000 that. So again, we're reviewing this stuff. It's not just sliding through. I mean, John's caught things, I mean, everybody is, they're doing what we should be doing to make sure that it's being done the right way.
Example, there's another thing, that's an example. So we'll talk another sticking point, that a lot of people are upset about, and rightfully so. Wind energy, right? It's, everybody would agree that clean energy is a good thing, right?
No, we're not gonna go into
We're
it,
not
this is
gonna
a
go
budget.
I'm talking numbers, okay? The numbers that came in, I'm looking at what, like, the cost allocations for the actual savings that occurred. Some of that misinformation last year is that it actually cost the town more money than it actually did. Well, that's not actually necessarily true. It did generate cost savings. Was that produced in a way to show the town that it's actually saved money? No. I have credit balances that I can distribute to pull down operational expenses next year, which I'm planning on doing. So, and then we're going to renegotiate that going forward. But that's some of the stuff that you do a deep dive into, and you start looking at some of these contracts.
Yeah,
pull them back out.
yeah, you're talking about the power purchase agreement.
Yeah, so we're talking about some cost savings that were there that I'm also looking at. So that's the statement that I'm going to is that there's cost savings there that misinformation, why we're all here today is there in the town.
The landfill on Arnold Road.
That's another good one.
Because when do you think the solar's gonna go on that?
They are
How
going,
many years out of it?
how many years?
Yeah.
I'm hoping that I wanna be under contract with somebody before this year is over.
Yeah.
For leasing that site to them.
How many square feet?
How
many acres, I guess?
It'll be about 12.5 acres on top on actual usable area. I've had a couple of companies come in already, give me some numbers. We've got one that is actually the only company that's certified for the cover to put solar on the cover that's being used on the turf. And they're telling me that they can actually generate about 6 megawatts on the coverage that we've got up top.
And what does that turn into rev?
For the town, we're looking at somewhere around ballparking about $150,000 a year. We've also
that we didn't have before.
Yep.
Exactly, and what I'd like to do, and if the council goes with it, I'd like to earmark that towards capital, is what my plan would be. And that way it's a steady stream, it's not a lot, but it's a steady stream.
You can find a drop in the bucket anywhere other than from your pocket. That's what we're always constantly looking at.
Well,
I feel like we can also cut costs if we get our town solicitor involved with West Warwick on that IMA. That IMA is costing us, because here's
I
my
will
problem.
say this, King, we've been at several meetings, we've had several with them,
My problem
they
is
are not open to
I
any
talked to a
type of
town
reduction.
councilman, right? What if they do a $10 million upgrade next year that you guys don't even have on your radar, and they just vote it through, and then we gotta pay 27% of that upgrade? Where is that money gonna come from? That's what I wanna know.
Yeah.
And what happens if 3 streets who currently already have sewers, what if those sewer lines burst? Where is our emergency fund related to our sewer enterprise fund? We don't have one. And an unplanned sewer pipe can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Because Warwick's going through 4 of them right now, or they recently have. And my fear is we're trying to come up with $600,000 for the schools. One sewer pipe goes, that's the capital for the school.
Again, that's all part of what we're looking in the plan on not just stabilizing that fund, but to make it actually accurately self-sustaining the way it's supposed to be, and the way it needs to be. Again, it's all part of that whole process with that, which is, we can't really move forward on any of that until we get that report. I don't wanna make any more changes than what we've already done. We've refinanced some, one of the bonds, we've given back some of the money that so we've made some changes there, but the big stuff, we have to wait till that report's in. Before we can move on any of that piece of it, so, I know, it's frustrating, that's one of the things I'd love to see done, and get that where it needs to be.
Good news is the sewer infrastructure is not very old, so that thing like that would happen in Warwick is unlikely.
Well,
but it's not that it can't ever happen, I totally agree, but
back in the 80s.
But
it does.
I mean, when I was in Woonsocket, I mean, they had clay pipes in the ground for the sewers that would still work, but I get it, you're totally right, 100% correct, but I'm just saying,
The sewer
kind of-
enterprise fund
the
should be.
silver lining
generated.
on that is that the infrastructure's relatively new, so
Yeah.
it's in good condition, that's good. You know, you have a town like Woonsocket where it's all clay pipes, or even Warwick where it's really old, and the stuff is, now it's starting to let go
We've
before you.
had pump house purchases that we made, and then like 3 years later, we had issues with.
Well,
So-
that probably was an issue in the beginning.
I mean, I'm sure you remember that one, but, so it happens, for sure. That's my point. That's
Yeah,
all.
it
But I'm
does.
just, I guess, grand scheme, there are ways for this town to,
Well,
And we are looking at it, and hopefully that's coming across, that we are actually looking
Sounds
at
that way, for
everything
sure.
that we
Well,
can.
the Arnold Road remediation of that landfill was originally projected to cost the town approximately $10 million because of the cost of doing it, the O&M, 30 years of monitoring after the fact, and all of that. By allowing the Bud material to be used and change that, it went from a cost to a revenue.
Right.
And almost overnight. We were looking at extending that, allowing them to extend 5 feet above where they are now.
Right.
The reason I was looking at that is we were short about $800,000 in the 30-year O&M money that's been generated already by Bud, by the Bud material. I didn't want the town on the hook for any amount on this thing if we could do it. So that's why we were looking at doing that. That was gonna generate about $1.3 million, $1.4 million, make it so that O&M fund is covered, it's sustained for the next 30 years, no cost to the town. That's what the outcome. We ran into an issue with the contractor that kind of got derailed for a bit, disappointed, and then it started to look like it was coming, it came back to life. Because he realized that, he didn't want to do what he had done. In fact, we were gonna get it done for less money than we had offered him initially. But last 11th hour, and we pulled it from the agenda at the last minute in the council, two sessions ago. The new numbers had come in, and we had actually taken in, because of natural compaction of the material, we ended up taking in more material than what was originally estimated, and we had actually generated $1.7 million more than what. So not only is that fund now sufficient, there's about over $600,000 in excess in that fund over what's projected to be needed over the 30 years. So it's not gonna cost us any more money. So there was an original, bonding on that, remediation bond, I think about $5 million. Which most of that was to buy back the land and pay back from Cambia to buy the land back.
Yeah.
Most of that went for that. But there has been absolutely no cost of all of that. There's been a couple of minor cases where there might have been some of the, dirt was on Arnold Road from the trucks coming in with all the material, and I think they did a nice job of fixing that, stopping that problem. I've been in meetings with them every 2 weeks. We have a meeting involving that process, and we're waiting to cap. They're waiting to start. It'll be down to like maybe March or April. They'll begin the process of putting the final layer of dirt on there, locking it down, the company will come in. They tell me they can lay down 1.5 acres of that turf that's going on that thing in a day. I can't wait to see this go on, because I took a tour up. I wanted to see what the whole place looks like, so I walked it with them, went up. It's pretty impressive. I mean, there's a gas burner for any kind of methane that may be produced, which when that went on, I was a little disappointed. I figured we're gonna get a flame like you see like at Central Landfill. That's a flame. I was thinking, oh cool, that's what we're gonna see. So let me go over there, photograph it, throw it on the web, make sure everybody understands. Yeah, you might see fire, here's what's going on. Nothing. You never see a flame, there's no flame out of the damn thing, it's all, basically it just blows and burns it off because there's very little coming out of there. So but it was really disappointing to me. I wanted to see the flame out of that,
But
like a little kid, and
basically,
unfortunately it was nothing.
when he's talking O&M, the operations maintenance of this, that cost over a 30-year period includes for things like environment, things like that.
Environmental testing, there's
And
also
we
been.
cannot touch any of that money for 30 years. Well, I mean, we can generate the revenues on top of it, but the cost to the town, that's why it's sitting there. So
But solar is off.
the solar is off.
It's got nothing to do with
That's
that. So that money, that revenue will come back to the town. That $600K that's sitting there is just gonna sit there, because my thought was, if we can generate $1 million and change, let's do it. Let's pull it back.
Yeah.
Capital, school, town, beautiful.
Nope.
Cannot be touched because we're 60%
30 years,
responsible, there are 6 other parties involved in this, they're all a piece of it. So until the O and M is actually done and they give us the blessing that it's clear, that money has to remain in there.
Correct.
Which, something I want to look at, and I haven't had a chance to yet, is there's about $2.6 million sitting in this thing. Well, if there's 2.6 sitting there,
60% of that.
yeah, but the interest on that alone should be covering the cost of the annual O and M, so we've got to look at that.
Yeah.
We don't handle it, we don't touch it, there are engineering firms, there are
Yeah, it's not.
lawyers up to tail that are involved in every primary responsible party on this, so it's just
Is the receivership over? Is that done?
on Cone?
Yeah.
That is not, that is still in play, we're waiting, and,
Waiting for the
hopefully,
judge? Waiting for the judge, is that what it is?
yes. So hopefully that will get finalized at some point, so that can move forward and,
I feel like that's heard most too.
yep.
Anything else?
I have a question.
Ah.
I know I'm on the other side, but.
Go get in the chair.
On the landfill with the solar, are we leasing them the space, or are they giving us free electricity? How we?
Well, that's something we've got to look at. We've got to look at in a possible power purchase agreement with them. I just don't know at this point, whatever's gonna be the most beneficial to the town. I mean, if we could get the electricity for a bigger savings than that, than the lease, then we would go that way. Whichever is gonna generate the most amount of money for the town or the biggest savings. But that's the thing with clean energy. It's great, but unfortunately, it's usually much more expensive than fossil fuel being used for electricity. But yeah, that's also in play once that whole thing stops. And the company that I'm seeing right now that looks like the better choice, that's one of their offers that they're looking at. See, the other thing that involves with clean energy, which I'm getting an education on this whole thing. It's not just about generating it, you gotta have a way to get it to the substations. And the substations have to have the capacity to actually accept the stuff.
Yep.
And there's only so much, so that's what they're looking at. How much is it, and how much is it gonna cost to bring the feeder line from the site over to the substation that can accept it? That's gonna be done like they did up in Western, where they, I forget, $1 million and change to bring that line down to feed into that substation, and the substation needs to get upgraded. So that's consideration in it. So that in itself will affect the lease cost, or the lease amounts that we can get because of what the costs are on that. It shouldn't be much because they feel as though there's a substation not far from there that'll work and it's got capacity to handle it, so.
Yeah, but 6 megawatts isn't really that much.
I mean, I know some people like them, some people don't like them. They don't like what they look like. I mean, there are some residential units over there in that area on Arnold Road, but most of it is commercial, so it's not.
It's not gonna be
It's a landfill now.
It's better than a landfill.
Can't do it.
Yeah, it's a landfill now. Solar panels is definitely better.
You cannot, and that's the thing, there's a warranty that we'll be receiving on that
What are
turf.
you gonna do with that? You might as well do it in something that generates money.
So that's part of the O and M, is the insurance on that to cover any cost in case something happens. It can't take anything like that. That's why, even as far as putting solar panels on there, there's only certain types of mounts. You can do nothing that's penetrating. It's all
You gotta balance it all.
Yeah, they cannot. Cranston's got a landfill that they recently finished remediating, and it's got the same kind of turf on it that's going up there. Really cool stuff. I got a sample from the company on what it looks like. It's neat as hell. I was impressed on what it is. The membrane that's on underneath it, and then all of that is on the edges. It's all maintained with rock and stone to keep it so it doesn't lift and doesn't move. The whole object of this thing is to keep the water from getting in. And that's what I think there are 6 monitoring wells on this site that are up there, and they have to be maintained as well during that 30-year period.
What do they do with all the water that comes off it then? They have to.
It's not going into it, so it's not coming off it.
It goes on the top and it goes to the sides.
It's all membrane.
Pick that all up.
It's all membrane, and there's retention ponds, and that water will go into there. And that's tested. That has to be tested and maintained to make sure that there's nothing coming into that and then flowing down. I mean, things happen. I mean, they will, on occasion, they will change the regulations. Pacillo, ended up
Oh,
on
for the
that,
materials and everything like that?
on the level of acceptance that EPA will allow of certain chemicals. Sometimes drops, it gets lower, and now suddenly what you were in compliance, you're no longer in compliance. You have to start changing the way that, how it's handling what's coming off that. So, but yeah, that'll be closed up by fall at the latest. I'm looking forward to it. I'm glad.
Thing that cut out of the budget, that's
Yep.
why.
But it's really bad.
But it's
We're,
just so
we
easy,
tried
well,
to,
we
they
just
tried
put
putting it in the
capital.
budgets, apparently, but hopefully there will be some, because I'm not the one. From him.
Hopefully there will be. Dollars on some of these trucks. I mean, it's unbelievable. I've gone and I've looked at, they look good. When you see them come down the road, they're all painted up white. They look damn good. Until you get down, you start looking, and the things that
The
chassis
chassis
are rotted out.
rusted out. Yeah, it's bad.
Lipstick on a pig. I mean, they look good, but, we've got some new. There's a lot of old equipment out there. These buildings are in need. I mean, there's a huge need for capital.
Yeah.
We need to find a way to generate true revenue and not tax money
Yeah.
to come up with some of this. And it's things we're looking at. We're looking at all possible ways on
But
what we can do.
again, we're dealing with, it's not a cross-section in time from last year, the year before that. This is 20, 30 years in the making of multiple small decisions making large impacts in the long term. So hopefully, you can look in the past and say, get an understanding of where you are, but spending too much time in the rearview mirror is not going to help going forward when trying to drive down the road. So understanding what happened in the past will help make better decisions for the future. So what we're doing is essentially trying to make a couple of year plan to get us to the next time so that we can make smart decisions and know where we stand and then move forward again. So from a financial side.
My line from since Waters' departure has been Coventry moving forward. We can't change what happened. It's done. We can fix and go forward, and that's all we can do. And that's what we've been trying to do, is we're trying to get the things together and do what we can and make those changes and bring it to where it belongs. I've lived here 35 years. Mo's been here longer than that, right?
No, 30.
30. I mean, we're residents. I love this town. And most of the people that work here are.
Although I will say that I came,
yeah.
I come from a town in Connecticut that's very similar to this. I could barely see my neighbors. It took me 15 minutes to get to a gas station. So the town feel, the town personality, I personally like it.
So the council gets a bad rap. We've got people on there that honestly are. Everyone that I know on there is there, doing what they think is the best for this town. They are truly, people don't want to believe it, some people don't, I know, I get that, but they really, truly are. I work with them, some of them I speak to daily, others I don't, but every conversation I've had with any of them, it's all about where are we going, how do we fix it, what's the problem, what do we need to do, and they are concerned about getting it right.
And they do listen.
Swallow. Sometimes when I went in front of them first, and they told me I was just front of the taxpayer.
I am not gonna say that there haven't been individual council members.
That's not true.
They were listening to me.
I'm not gonna say that there haven't been individual council members that may not have always had the right attitude with the public on some occasions. I don't believe what the people that we have on there right now are that way. Your council president, he wants to do the right thing. He's concerned about doing the right thing. Greg Labakia, I've been out there, we've had a situation now in Calvin Town the last couple of weeks about smell. Yeah. I've been out there numerous times with Greg, walking. We've walked the Negros property together. These people care about what's going on. They're residents. They care about this town. They get a bad rap at times. Like I said, sometimes in the past, there's been some things that have been that have come out that probably shouldn't have come out the way they did. We're all human, we have attitudes at times. But these guys and ladies are unbelievable. Ann Dixon has been phenomenal with the info she wants and digging in. It's great. Whatever you want, come on in, guys. I mean, we'll do whatever it takes to bring them up to speed, to get them. They need us to give them the information so they can make the right decisions, and that's what we're trying to do, is give them all of those.
I do feel like there's definitely been a change.
I'm very happy, like I said, I think this council is gonna do some good things. I think we're gonna move forward and take care of some of the issues we've been
There is
dealing
some
with.
hard decisions that will be made, that will come up,
There's no getting around
there's
it.
no getting around it.
Some
As we
people
said,
aren't gonna
there's
like
decades
some of
in the works, but hopefully the information is gonna get out, and we'll try to do this again in the future, again.
I'd like to get more people.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's kind of
We're-
sad that only 35,000 people care enough to, I mean, I don't care, but we took time out of our day because we wanna make sure that people understand it. And also, if you ever just wanna come in here during the day and ask me questions, I mean, I don't have a problem with that at all. I'm very transparent. I'll show you anything you wanna see how I do stuff in my department and stuff, but,
And we
buy in from the town.
You got questions on it?
It's
It's your town.
People don't even know what bonds are, I don't think.
They're what?
They don't even know what a bond is.
I know it had
They
not
know
started.
The ballot, hey, I'd love to have a
About
new
April-ish
gazebo
of
and a
next
new park.
Cause that's
It's a
gonna help the
bond, they
budget
don't
too,
realize
right?
that. I didn't
Knowing
realize that money has to get
what it
paid
is.
back.
I've actually had people say to me, you mean we have to pay that back?
Yeah, so they,
Yes.
yes.
I heard last year they were trying to cut like revenues,
Revenues.
like state revenues, like we're trying to get revenue.
Yeah,
in
that's
and-
budget.
Listen, I think, I mean, I don't know if that's something that the town can do to educate people more.
We're
on.
trying.
We're trying.
I do really think people don't understand sometimes a bond is a borrowing.
Bond is a long-term debt.
It's a
It's a
loan,
loan.
exactly.
Is that
And that's what it should say, instead of bond, it should say loan, and it might
A
make.
gazebo in a park, but no, you're gonna pay that back.
Yep.
And we're not at a spot where we can say yes to every single bond on a ballot.
But
It
somehow
happens
they
on the
always
state
get
level,
yes
it
and
happens
yes.
locally. And like I said, I had somebody come up to me and go, what do you mean we have to pay that back? It's a bond. Yes, it's a bond. You borrowed money to buy that.
It's right there.
We did? Yes. You don't get it
That's
for free.
that's the
And
school
happens on
department.
State level, people are, oh yeah, it's 500 million and this.
That's when we have almost all the bonds.
To not go to any type of bond in the next several years, if we can do it, because I don't wanna add any more debt to what we've
That's
done.
the town side right there, where you're talking bond money, the principal and interest on a year basis. That's that for this is the town side, and then you have the school side. Right there.
We
Are
actually.
you guys going after grants, like,
Well, we go after grant money.
go after grant money.
Everything that we can see for grant money, if it comes with a savings, yeah, we're after it.
We've
There
got,
are
we've got,
people that are looking for like $500 so we pay insurance for like buildings and things like that. We try doing training sessions to train how to lift things properly in order to get $500 from the trust company, like on a quarterly basis. We're
but it's also
after,
something that's neat, I mean,
Yeah.
we could be,
We do
because
things that are
we
neat.
have reduced down the number of injuries, though.
Yeah.
It's like, that's
And
the
that
goal
reduces
of what
costs.
we're trying to do.
but we also doing things like that. So when we see any little sliver of any outside revenue source, we're after it.
One of the things that's gonna happen next, when is it, 3 years from now, or 4 years, when that $1 million, what is it, $1 million bond payment comes off, right? 3 years.
23.
Our bond indebtedness is gonna drop, and our payments are gonna drop by nearly $1 million that's coming. So that's a couple more years down the road, and that gets paid off.
However, there's a new bond going out that's gonna pull that down a little bit, but yeah.
The police.
There's a ledge coming down, but there's no appetite to go out and do additional bonding anyway.
I mean,
After that, and then it comes down even farther, and so when I mentioned earlier about the 5-year plan, it's essentially we're looking at specifically this next couple of years to that ledge and saying, okay, what do we need to do to make this town better, invest where we can invest, and then at that ledge, now we need to start making a plan for what that next drop. Let's start figuring this piece out. So we're not looking things year over year, we're looking things out a couple of years in advance. So you have to have that mindset, because year over year is only a sliver in time. So
I'd like to put the money, I'd like to save the money and buy what we need instead of borrowing money to buy what we need.
Yep.
solve that with a capital improvement fund. And that was, it. Every year money went into it, and the purchases that we needed came out of it, we weren't borrowing money to do this.
Don't forget
stuff.
though,
To buy the truck and to buy the things.
a municipality still will have to run and still will have to have debt service always.
You're never gonna get away from it.
You're never gonna get away from it. You can't. You're gonna. It's not like a person can run and be straight cash based only and can.
Most people nowadays.
You can't.
You know, they don't go out and buy a house with cash.
Right. You just
Right.
can't do
Yeah.
that. There's
You
always
know,
some form of
you're
debt.
not- You know,
But you
when
can be smart about
when your debt is bigger than what your assets are or something, well, now you got a problem.
Right, but it's not, but but back to that one is not necessarily in bonded debt, that's in a lot of other liabilities.
One of the things, Jamie, that you saw with the pensions and the amount of pensions on it. The town, a couple of years ago, ended up getting saddled with the SRP pension, which,
18 million.
which was not anything that was
You guys were
something that was set up.
Yeah.
I know it was set up, 30 years ago, as a defined contribution plan. Somehow it got mutated into a defined benefit plan, and somehow we ended up on the hook for paying it. We had,
That was essentially the last one added.
yeah,
Because I think it was in 2015 is when the GASB came out, that you guys are required to
Guys are 54.
include
yep.
the debt, and I think our liability jumped $100 million.
Yep. Yeah.
So do almost a lot of municipalities.
I understand, but I mean, there's other
It
municipalities in our
was
state
tough when you
that
say
are
that.
doing a lot better than ours.
Absolutely.
And if you take the 4 towns that are our size,
Mhm.
we're the 4th out of those 4 towns.
Which ones are they?
Well, Cumberland is close to, they're actually like within 300 residents. And their net position is $49 million positive. And we're negative 120 million. It's a $170 million swing.
Mhm.
I get it. I mean, they're closer to Boston, there's reasons, but it just shows you that one of the biggest things is, well, we have so many residents, that's why we're in so much debt. Well, they have the exact same. 300 to me, it's the exact same.
I'd
And
be
they're
curious
doing
to
a
see
heck
what
of
their
a lot better.
OPEB comes out to, just out of curiosity.
I would agree,
I'm
but
just curious.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm gonna do this on thing. Check their school budget.
Yeah.
See the difference.
I understand.
Their budget's different on that piece, it's substantially different.
I understand. As
The
a
makeup
town
of the
as a
town is
whole,
different too.
things need to change.
They do.
We cannot keep on doing what we're doing. All you're doing is kicking it down the can. You're kicking the can down the road. That's all
If you
you're doing.
hit yourself in the head and think the pain's not gonna happen.
I think I said it when I came in here, I think the can's been kicked down the road so far.
Yeah,
I
we
think it just
got the
let it
can
off.
now. We can't kick it anymore.
So what is our position based, so you say 70% of the budget goes to schools, 30% goes to the side. How is that compared to the rest of the towns?
Hmm,
Good question.
In the
It's slightly higher than some, it's
I
slightly
mean,
lower than
I love
others.
schools,
I mean,
yes, that's why we came here.
yeah.
You know, a reason why a lot of people.
It's pretty much, it's
You know,
pretty
so
close,
it's like it's-
honestly.
oh,
Boy, I came here.
Yeah, my favorite,
I came here for school.
Honestly,
I don't mind paying for the school.
The
system.
teachers
None of
are
us
great,
do.
I mean, my kids love.
It's not about, it's just, again, as I said earlier, it's just a fact, it's a fact. But, I mean, if you, it's
That's
one
Cumberland
point.
one, so well, come on. So what is Cumberland?
But that
school budget
includes,
compared to Davis
that
County?
includes the,
Their
that
budget's
includes
small.
state aid and things like that
The
that they
budget's
get, to the
small.
total budget
They're-
overall, so of $103 million budget, they have to send.
They're, I don't want,
So do they have
take a look at it,
schools?
take a look at it and see where the differences are.
So it's
Their
70%
schools-
of the
almost
town
same
budget
schools,
is that.
Population is
It
almost
is.
the same size.
So it's
We
69.7%.
put more per student, more per student
However,
than what theirs is. I
The
think it's
substantial
$1,000
content,
or
if
$2,000
we look at
a year
how
that
much
we
of the
pay
tax
more than they
levy
They
goes
don't look at all
to
of
the
those. I
school
mean,
system, it's closer to
there's
6%.
reasons why.
It's still a lot, but it's still,
One of
it's
the-
closer
one of
in
the
line
things
to
that I
where
always thought
everything
would be a
else
good idea.
is. If you
That's
look,
just a function of your.
Don't call it a
authority,
Yeah.
it's the tax
But
that
call it
accumulates.
an agreement.
exactly, so you just based upon the
But
demographic
outside
composition of the
accounting
town,
firms
so
look
that's
at each
why
other.
Cumberland's very different.
it's absolutely
And I
different in
understand
Cumberland
money.
than it is here.
But at the end of the day, it could save money, because you could see if there's wasteful spending anywhere.
But
I mean, our budget is like $100 million, it's actually over $100 million if you include the Fed and state money that we get.
103 million,
104, I think.
Yep.
137.
So,
If you
I
want to
just
get
feel
exact.
like there could be wasteful spending, and that's another avenue that we could go down.
Well, see, that's one of the, again, what we're doing, doing here on the muni side is that's why we are looking at each and every one of these line items we're going through. Some, if a department says we've got fixed cost of X, well, show me the documentation. That
That's
you've got
exactly
fixed
what's
cost
coming
of
up
X.
in February.
We are
for me.
looking at all of this, we're looking at, to make sure that we are, we're not just taking last year's budget and going, all right, let's add 3%.
No.
That's, and that's
Well,
never.
I did feel that way when I went to the last year's budget meetings.
Yeah.
Well, what did we spend last year? Oh, we're only adding 2%. That's fine.
Well,
We understand costs go up, and that was like the answer for a lot of the line items.
Most of the increases in last year's muni budget were what do you call it, employee costs.
Contractual.
Employee costs, there were a couple of minor changes in there. Our total spending over the previous year was
The total
not,
spending got pretty much cut all across the board.
we were not that much higher than the previous year on, in the vast majority, like I said, it was the 2%, for the employee, pays, that where most of that money
But
went
you
to.
can't cut, I mean, you guys are working like 3 people all at once, so if we understand that, I mean, we all.
So
work
my
together.
wife is the executive director somewhere at a long-term
just,
healthcare.
That's why I say, I don't think it's an employee problem.
No, I mean, I don't think, it's not an expense problem. I mean, if you look at our budgets, okay, most departments have very little in their budget except employee costs. There's nothing else in these budgets. The police,
It's good enough to buy a couple of pens.
DPW, and even police, there's not their costs outside of labor costs are not that much. DPW,
Well,
it's equipment,
vehicles is,
police,
vehicles, for
vehicles,
both police and DPW.
vehicles
Is
are,
costing us a fortune.
vehicles,
I understand we're doing
Drive a lot.
those
Yeah.
lease to purchase agreements, but it's costing us money too. I
So
mean,
something that's interesting about lease to purchase agreements and things of that nature, like there are a couple ways that you can look at vehicle costs, right?
which I don't like, by the way.
Which I agree
Yeah, no.
So I mean, there's different ways of looking
Kind
at
of like
it.
a bond.
That was by the former town manager who.
I
Who
know.
did that?
There's
That
different
was
ways
not-
of looking at it. You can go out and buy a vehicle and make it last for a certain amount of time, but at the same time, after 10 years, 5 years, the costs are going to slowly increase. Whoever has an older vehicle knows that things break over time, and then it becomes more costly to have it.
A police vehicle fully decked is about a $50,000 purchase. You,
Expensive.
realistically, you get 3 years and you're pushing when your 3rd year. As someone who drove
It's got
those
100,000
junk
miles.
boxes for
Yeah.
a number of years in Pawtucket, I know what happens after a couple of years of 24-hour nonstop use, and those cars are rolling 24/7. In a community like this, with
Don't forget you
65
have
square
how many
miles,
miles? Yeah.
the distance they're putting on these vehicles is
I
monstrous.
guess what's hard for me to swallow is when I drive past the police station.
What you're seeing there, and most
There
people,
are a ton
of cars there,
just sitting there.
they're the old cars, okay? The vast majority of those, your frontline cars are the new cars that they get and they try to cycle through
They cycle
2 to 3
through the
cars
old ones and
every
make sure
year
that they have a cycle
to get those out. But those old cars you see there, primarily used on, detail, they're generating revenue for the town.
Yeah.
We get paid, like
I
the
understand.
police
but
officers in the cars,
There's a ton that just sit there.
yeah, and they're there just in case we need them. But again, if you go look at them,
revenue.
What'd you say?
They generate revenue.
yeah, if you wanna go look at them and you go see why, you don't want these as
Don't look at
frontline
that as a
cars.
negative.
You don't want
You
these
go
guys
to the
driving
worst
these cars.
right now. I mean, yeah, it is sitting
They're
there.
a liability,
But
cops are gonna get hurt, we're gonna own the cop.
yeah, you're not gonna
A
get.
civilian's gonna get hurt, we're gonna own the civilian. That's why those cars don't belong on the road. I've been in police vehicles, freaking ball joints blew out, and the car ends up in a pole, and I'm lucky I didn't get killed in it. More and more time, once they hit a couple of years, they're not standing up like they used to. Like years ago when I came on, and when I
Crown Vic.
That's what they're.
Brown
They
Vic,
run those things
and the
forever.
Chrysler, the Chrysler's back in the 80s. Those cars they were built for police packages, they were overbuilt. These cars today, they're not police packages, they're not beefed up suspension systems, they're not designed.
They have to
do
drop
this.
tens of thousands of dollars into a vehicle after they get it just to outfit it to be a police car. And then it's only good for 3 years. It's gone.
And a lot of, if you see some of these Crown Vics that are still floating around here, painted white. Go over to it, go over and take a look at it, you gotta go see what, you try to open the door, everything's just falling apart. Chris's office had one, couldn't go to reverse, you had to make sure wherever you parked, because it wasn't worth spending the money on it, because we look at what we're spending. Is it cost effective to put money into that vehicle?
Yeah.
And when it isn't, that's when it finally decides to, it goes off to Never Land. But, yeah, you have to just make sure you can drive forward, because and it wasn't,
So something that I'd like to be able to do is like do a lot more resource sharing across the towns, rather than just, Parks and Rec having to figure out how to get an older car that came from the police department that went to DPW, now it goes to Parks and Rec. Maybe there could be something else that we could be doing with that, maybe it's
we do-
schools or something
and we
like
do
that.
do
So I
some of
mean, that concern is on the radar.
I'd like to see things where communities work together to cost share. Okay, you may not need a bulldozer every day, force the maintenance, but maybe 4 or 5 communities buy it. It's available, yes, it's a little more logistic to track it, and when you need it, you gotta bring it in, but how much are you saving on that? How much are you sharing on that? Vehicles like that aren't used all the time.
That cost $100,000 to buy.
Exactly.
Or more.
Yeah.
Well, neighbors do that, you get, neighbors, they'll borrow each other's equipment, I don't have to buy, certain, something, and I just go to my buddy,
I even went as far to even just sort of, so on the federal side, you have GSA, which is an overarching, you can lease from the government itself kind of a thing. You can get some significant cost savings that route. I even tried to see if a municipality could jump in on that, because the actual mileage rate and the actual cost is actually dramatically cheaper by doing it that way. You can roll over stock. Can't do it. I tried. But I mean, that's to give you an
There's your
example that I
constraints that sometimes
really,
make it hard.
I really looked at even that, deep dive on that one too, so.
It's like trying,
Like one of the things here, we got one bucket truck in the town. PD uses it, DPW uses it, Parks and Rec uses it, IT uses it. I mean, we're all sharing this bucket truck, which we all got certified on it to make, so we're doing it, we don't let anybody into anything that hasn't been trained properly. But we share that one truck, and it's an old Verizon truck. And this thing has seen better days, but it's not something we use constantly, but it's something that we need on occasion. So we've got it, we keep it running, doesn't really cost us anything, and it's used by whatever department needs to use it. So we do that now, we try to do it as much as possible, and we're looking at some other things, or maybe some other areas that we can consolidate, that we, look for equipment and stuff that may not be getting used, every day. So we are trying to do some of those, to cut down some of those costs, try to keep them as low as we can. That's all part of what goes on.
Feel like a deep dive somewhere for how much I've jumped into stuff here.
I can't believe it's quarter to 3.
I know, right? Yeah.
I mean, has there been any incentives to try to get businesses into these empty lots? Because there, to me, is, revenue.
That's what I would love to do too. I am
there's so many
hounding some council people about what I wanna do.
Center New England
Yeah, I mean, there's all these old
has been
empty lots.
It would help, it would
You
be
gotta
of significant help to the community to get more business revenue into here. It's a stronger business community, and the one thing that I asked the council person was, where is the center of town?
You're probably looking at it.
No, we're made up of, I don't know, I forget the number of it.
So
Eight villages, 9 villages
You
or
should
something.
have a
So we don't have
thriving,
a
you
town
should
center.
have a center that, have businesses, that has a draw,
Yeah,
that
Main
you
Street.
done that.
But
So-
Warwick doesn't have a town center
You
either. They have
don't,
a
but
ton
you
of-
have, but people can be like, you know what, there's Route 1. That's
Or-
your
or
generation.
but they have Baldwin Road.
But yeah.
They have Baldwin Road, but they have no center of town. They
But
have
my
an airport
point
in the
is-
middle. They have a whole bunch of
Center of
towns
New England,
around.
Center of New England was actually supposed to be, it may still come to life over the next several years.
Is our community, we're based on agriculture,
Open,
farming. You have these open, I guess where the old Kmart used to be, like the Burger King.
Yep, over there,
You have that big open lot, can we not put something there that, like a town-run, what do you call it, where all the farms get together, farmer's market or something? Something where it's Coventry, we're.
So they own the property now? So we'd own the property and then.
No, they don't, that's,
We paid for
Not
it,
ours.
and now that they've come back on our
No,
lot,
but
now
I
that
mean,
we
I
can
don't
our
know
insurance
any,
costs on
I'm
it.
saying like, you know,
It's like-
the
We-
incentives we.
Yeah.
we've
don't wanna
actually-
run it, so
We've
we want-
actually got, our Parks and Rec director, Raina Blumenthal,
Yeah.
is actually looking at starting some farmers market, see if we can
Yep.
get that started. I love going. I love doing the Main Street, in Pawtucket. I don't know if anybody's gone to the old mill in there. If you like, that place is amazing.
Situate Art Festival, that's great.
Yeah.
My
Okay,
God.
there's only,
Yep.
and-
There's some things that I would love to do, but there are other constraints on the other side, where you have planning and zoning and the board that you have to tighten up some of our rules that we have. So on the business side, that business wants to come into town, if you ask any business person that comes into town, they state that it's difficult to get into this, to do business with the town of Coventry.
It's a lot of red tape.
Yeah, that's what you hear all the time.
How
And-
different is that than any other?
But everybody
It's
says.
it's not,
However,
if you look, it's not.
it's
not
not,
anywhere
so I
near.
wanna say that
Now,
it's,
General, on Hartney Hill, took about a year for it to actually.
and they've actually, so anyway, to defend
One in
pop,
West Warwick,
Hold on.
3 months.
Hold on,
Jamie,
I'll give you
look
the,
through
I'll
this
give you the
one.
answer on that one, okay?
live in that one.
Because I did the research on that, because I had been told by several people about the year process, and I'll tell you, it took almost exactly 1 year from start to authorization to start building.
Yeah.
It was almost to the day.
That's,
I had our
that's
pl-
to start building, right?
Right, from the start of the process
Just,
to apply,
wait,
start to apply, the first day of applying for the planning and zoning, until finally getting approval to begin, almost 1 year. I'm upset, okay, it's crazy. I asked our planning director, Carolyn Wells, it's Caroline, give me a breakdown of this, I wanna see a timeline, show me what's going on. This was a year project, why? None of it was on us. Absolutely, I've got the paper.
she's turned around
I'll-
things,
I'll-
and
I'll
even with
send you
90
the-
days,
I'll
she's turned
send you the
around in
timeline.
4.
There was a 1 month period where the planning, I forget if it was planning or zoning meeting, was canceled
Correct.
because they didn't have a quorum. That was the only time I could say that we put a delay on it. When stuff would go up in front of planning for, that had to be approved and then work their way through. They have, 90 days in most cases to do stuff. 4, 5 days to turn around, she had it back out the door. The delays did not come out of here, the thing, it was all, they would get it and then nothing would be done on their part.
I have a question.
And I was, I'll send it to you. One more second, 7 Moons, people were asking, why the hell hasn't 7 Moons opened up?
Yeah, it hasn't opened.
No, they haven't.
Keeps on saying.
Why not? Is it coming from us? I called building inspector, planning department, what's going on? They did an inspection, electrical inspection with the fire marshal. 7 major electrical violations in there. They told what to do, pull a permit, boom, get it done. They've never pulled a permit, they haven't done it. That's why 7 Moons hasn't opened yet.
Is that
Not
our
on the
fault?
town,
No.
but people think
looks
it's
like
the town,
Looks like it is.
and it isn't.
So one of the things when I get back to my statement about looking at that, I want to make it, again, to the transparency piece, where it's like, if anybody wants to know what's going on, there's a document that shows sort of a timeline, there could be things of that nature that show we are doing our part. So,
To
that's-
your original question was, how we bring in businesses in, so that's why I said Center of New England. I don't know if you know, but we already gave those current, businesses, like Walmart, BJ's, they already got a 10-year treaty, which means you can come to our town, we'll give you this property, and we won't tax you on the real estate side.
Oh, well,
Well, we phase it in or something, right?
phase it, the 10-year phase it.
No, 10-year phase.
So you pay
So-
10% the first year, 20 the second year,
I understand.
whatever.
But I'm just trying to, we are incentivizing them to come to our business, so that means that the taxpayers are essentially having to pay what they should be paying, part of the tax base, because they're getting phased in every single year. Well, we went into another receivership because the, contractor, Cambio, folded essentially, and the state had to come in, and we actually have to dish out another 10-year treaty to any new businesses that come into that area in our town. And I feel like, I mean, I could be wrong here, but we can't give it to other people because we have so much expenses related to that 10-year treaty in that area, which is why you're not seeing like a Main Street or anything else, because we're trying to get out of that, we're trying to fix that problem.
Yeah, but you gotta remember something, Jamie, that's tax money we wouldn't have if the building wasn't there anyway. It's not, that treaty isn't on the land, that's on the correct me if I'm wrong, Bob, that's on the building that goes up, correct?
It's on the whole, it's on the whole.
It is on the land as well?
It's on the whole assessment.
When they purchased, all right,
Yeah.
So we're collecting, right now, we only collect on the value of what the land is.
Correct.
So when they build one of these things, yeah, you're right, it is, but again, there's
I'm
nothing
not
that.
saying it's a bad thing.
No, I know,
I'm
I'm
saying
something
it's
that
a
takes a
good
while
thing.
to bring
Right, it's one way
Building
that's
condos,
done
they
it.
don't get
And
it.
that
And then it brings in jobs.
Yep.
And then the town.
And businesses are taxed at a higher rate.
Yeah, correct.
Now, to that, like, I remember a long time ago, there used to be like seasonal businesses, and I heard seasonal businesses kind of left Coventry because they were being taxed for a whole year instead of the season, they would just open up. Like, if they were like, I don't know if that's true, it's that, again, a lot of
That's a new one to
miscommunication.
me.
All taxation's statutory anyway, there's very little that the town gets to dictate how we do it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So,
But
yeah,
like, if
can-
you're, like,
any
if you're just a
tangible
greenhouse,
personal
and all you
property.
do is you come in, you open up like a small little shop during the summers to sell flowers. You're not getting taxed all year long as an all year long business at that property.
Tangible tax, personal property tax, you don't prorate it, it is a year,
Yeah.
you get the whole year, and that's not Coventry's plan, that's just the state.
Yeah.
That's it, you don't prorate anything.
When it comes to taxing and assessment and things of that nature, it is, it's based off of statutory requirements, and we are.
But that's another
bound,
thing though, so on that note, on the tangible tax note, I mean, the idea, and me and Ed have been talking about it from time to time, is we'd like to make it where the smaller businesses, we make it such that, you know, the little businesses don't have to get nickel and dimed. And, but
Right.
it's gotta be done in a way that is still fair for everybody.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, do we have a ton of tiny little businesses that we're sending $100 tax bills to? Yeah.
And
Do we need to do that? Probably not, but you know what, you get it, the money's gotta come from somewhere, so whatever we give, we're gonna get back. But we're working on some way to kind of alleviate some of that stuff where you can incentivize a small business to come in here. When they get big, they can pay us the taxes, but when they're little, we can let them come in and they get a break until they get to a certain size, and then.
There are other things, Mo's thrown out a couple of other ideas, but it's sort of in-
Biosci got that when they came in, in the hope that they would incubate and bring those other businesses in. Only recently he's been bringing some stuff in, he hasn't, it's just, sometimes ideas that
It can't be,
don't-
it's a
don't
lot
work out.
more speculation on
Yeah,
that.
it
So,
it's real tough.
there's some other pieces as far as generating revenues, there's some businesses that have the capacity to pay that sometimes don't pay, and it's trying to figure out how to strategically get without driving away business. So you're kind of playing that too off the side. And if you look at the numbers for when it comes to what Mo generates in her office, across town, she does a good job.
There's a great file on the website.
Property tax file?
The delinquent
Yeah.
property tax file.
Yeah.
It's a great little thing to go look at and see just how much is.
There's some businesses on there that have been delinquent for like years upon years upon years.
Mhm.
And I always question why,
Me too.
I get your point, like, you don't wanna close them down, cause then it's gonna be another empty shop, but I mean, at some point, I feel like there should be like a regulation that if you haven't paid your taxes after 3 years, you can't be in business any longer.
I wanna take the equipment.
I know.
Yeah, or something,
I
right?
wanna, yeah,
If they
no,
owe
I
it
wanna
to
take
us.
the equipment, and
I
there's laws
understand.
that,
Without mentioning the name.
Without mentioning names or-
Name of the company.
or anything.
There was a fitness spot that had like 10 years
yeah,
going, and I looked at it and I said, they're still open, there's still people going in there, like, how are they
So
still?
we may have already sued them and got a judgment too, though.
Yeah,
It just
and
didn't get
I
paid
have-
yet.
we
It's
do-
not, sometimes it's not that.
Well, then it should
clean
come off
cut.
that listing though.
no, we get a judgment, but just because you have a judgment, that doesn't mean they're gonna pay. They don't have to pay
And then
it.
you gotta chase them again, and then you gotta chase them
I
again.
have
Like, we
judgments,
chase
yeah.
them, believe me.
I
like-
have judgments against quite a few businesses,
Yeah.
but I'm still not getting any money.
So, yeah, it's something else, and we're talking revenues
But
again.
what's the next
Another
step?
level.
What is the next step that
we
you're
go-
allowed to do?
Oh, I put them in collection, we get the judgment,
That's it, we
I
go to
can-
court, the judge says you have to pay
What
them.
we do with the town solicitor?
the only thing we're looking at now, again, is to try to go and take the equipment.
Recapture it, then resell it, kind of stuff.
Now, does their money, like, what they owe for that year get put in the budget? So if, let's say they owe us $20,000 for that 1 year, I don't know what it'll be. Is that added to the budget, which we don't see?
It's actually
No,
not, because we have a budget.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
but we have a collection
No,
rate, though.
We have a collection
apply
rate, we apply a
so
collection
know we're
rate,
not
what
gonna
we-
collect everything.
We
don't
have,
budget to
I
collect
have to
everything.
do a calculation based upon previous years, what I see coming in, and see what our actual revenues are going to be, and try to match up that, so that's why you pay.
The revenue hump you see in that line item is based on like 98.5,
6, 5,
Was it 5, 6?
5 or 6.
98.5, 98.6 collection rate. So, here's what we should collect, here's what we're gonna really collect, and the budget's based on what we're really gonna
So what
collect.
happens with the money when you finally do collect any of it? Is that like a windfall all of a sudden?
So if we
That goes
get,
to
so
the
let's say that
general
we
fund?
go out and we get a litigation.
But I mean, yeah, money is
we-
collected that you didn't expect,
Yeah,
yeah.
so
We
what-
budget to historically what we collect, including the back taxes, when we do collect them, even though they may be old.
So if we have excess revenues from something that we weren't expecting to have, let's say that someone comes in and says, okay, I won the lottery, here's my judgment, and here's all the back taxes that I owe, well, great, that's wonderful. I can take that, I can accept that general thing, now I can go right into the general fund, remember, we have the ability to sit there and that becomes reserves, but then at the end of the year, if we have a certain excess revenues, part of that we have a requirement to fund back into the pension, so,
Over and above the
over and
odds.
above. And then that's
And
where it
there's
goes, it just doesn't disappear.
And there's also part of it, yeah.
Cause then,
there's
right,
also
you have
part
that
of it
concern
now
of it.
that will go towards capital
That's
improvement.
why I
Right.
like your podcast.
Now,
I'm joking.
if you look at the budget, you will also see a line item in the budget that says prior year collection.
Yep.
So that we do budget and based on, again,
That all feeds into the collection rate though. So
Right,
we
exactly.
know.
right, well, that's where it all
Certain
counts,
percent of
but we
this
do
year, certain
account for
It
that
doesn't
money,
just
or
disappear.
expected amount that we're gonna collect from past years.
There are requirements above and beyond, and then it also, it gets used again. It gets filtered right back into the sound, so.
Yeah.
All right, it's almost 3 o'clock. One quick, easy question, anybody?
I just wanted to thank you.
We don't
guys for
run?
having
All right, thank you.
Thank you guys for coming.
No, I wanna thank
Yeah.
you for coming here, staying
That's
for
right.
2 hours, asking the questions, we wanna try and help people to understand what's going on, and we can't do it if we can't get them to us.
I mean, I love the town. I don't wanna be,
Dave, thank you, and,
unable to afford to live here.
by the way, what's your name?
Rich.
Rich, Ed,
How you
nice
doing?
to meet you. Dolores, nice to meet you. You guys.
See you, I see both of you every week, every other week. You guys come all the time, that's great.
It's good, but there's clearly not a lot of buy-in though from the residents. Everybody wants to complain when the taxes are high, but then it's like when we try to do something like this, and it's like, come on in and we'll,
Try our
come up with
I
some
wonder-
ideas, we
I
wanna
wonder
hear you,
though,
and it's
if
like
you guys
four
were to
people.
do this on a weekend that's very close to when the budget's gonna get finalized.
We're gonna,
I wonder if I
This
feel
one
like
right here
the
was our,
turnout
this
would be
was
a
our,
lot more.
this was our feeler, one to see how would we actually flow, see what type of general questions we can.
I'm gonna
really
check
get,
it. I'm
and then
gonna check
we
and
can
see how many-
more prepared.
we've actually had some good success on some of the live stream, and then, if there's been anything that's gone down, man, our hit rate bounces up on if there's any kind of,
Cause I stream the school committee a lot, cause that's during the week a lot.
Yep.
And I use the, YouTube town for town council one, cause again, it's tough. I mean, like this worked out perfectly. 1
Yep.
o'clock on a Saturday, it was like perfect.
well, that's why we figured we'd do it on a Saturday, we'd make it
Early
Oh.
afternoon?
not Super Bowl weekend, it's the weekend
Oh, God.
before, there's a Super Bowl!
I'm gonna.
It was a beautiful day to do it, it's actually not that bad out, the weather held pretty good.
I mean,
I was
I'm
hoping,
watching.
you know,
this worked out perfect for me, cause
We got 3 watching right now.
Three?
3 watching, 4 in the room and 3 on the computer,
Yes.
so we got 7.
as soon as,
Two of them are
I'm
probably
back to my
council
real
members.
job of IT and
Two of them
not,
are council members?
I don't know, maybe.
not acting,
I don't know if I can
taking
tell
on
them
there.
actually.
I wanna get all the
I
rest of
feel
them
like
up
that would
there.
help get some kind of involvement at least.
The zoning and planning, are definitely the sewer are the big 3 that I wanna get in as soon as I can get back and spend some time. And I gotta get some people trained on, the equipment's not hard to use, and it usually runs flawless without a problem. But I just gotta get them trained to make sure that they keep the mics off until the meeting starts, get the mics off as soon as the meeting's over, because, and I told everybody up on, remember, you're a live stream, there's no 10-second delay, it is what it is. And one of the things I do is, once I kick that video on, I may shut the audio off if there's a break, if they're doing like a reset, I'll shut the audio off only. I do not break that video. Once it stops, I leave it running. So if anybody makes any stupid moves, you're gonna see it, at least you're not gonna hear it.
Yeah, financial director who jumps up and down and goes back
Yeah,
and forth.
you can ricochet rabbit.
Yeah.
So I keep it running. I don't want anybody to even begin to think that maybe we shut something down or edited something out. Just, so I keep it going. But so I've gotta get people that, like, I gotta get Caroline and Brian up to speed on that, and then, probably somebody from the sewer subcommittee to handle that. So again, just so they're on, they're off. I sometimes will remotely handle that. I haven't figured out a way to make this remote turn it on. It doesn't want to go on, the mics. Some of the committees don't bother with the mics, they don't turn them on, and this, I have to have the feeds from here to get it, so, it's simple things, but, so, at some point, very soon, hopefully very soon, and somebody else will be doing it, and I can get back to doing that kind of stuff. Because Cody, the kid that works with me, Cody, he's taken on a lot more while I've been, interim manager, and he's
Kinda busy. I've been kinda busy.
He is.
Why don't you just become town manager?
Interim town manager. Actually, Waters resigned in March.
Yeah.
Yeah, March.
It was March. I was interim for about 8 weeks then. We brought in, Steve Delaney.
Yeah.
Steve lasted about 8 weeks, and, so I've been since.
And you were, for a few months, you were sitting there,
I
and
was-
you were an interim, and then also financial director,
Yeah,
too.
finance director. I'm doing 3 jobs.
But, you know what, it worked out really well, because then I come in here and I'll start running through a whole bunch of numbers, and it's kind of funny, because I'll throw up on his whiteboard, I'll start throwing accounting, and I'll start moving some stuff and saying, hey, this is here, just understanding how the books are, and he's been great, because he knows the finances of this town, so.
What I did know was bond issuances, and on that refi on the bond for the, I got an education on that one, that was interesting. That was,
Bonds are fun.
yeah, it's real fun when you find out just, what costs are associated with the bonds, and it's all lawyers.
Yeah.
On issuing those, and that was interesting to see some of the numbers. Some of the numbers with the lawyers and the,
But that one was that one was a lot higher just because of the nature of
Right.
it, so.
right, it's a different type
It's a
of
different
bond.
type of the bond.
And it requires some additional, work that has to be done on those.
Yeah.
Which I found out, so, but yeah, so hopefully at some point in the not too distant future, I'll be going back to my real position.
I hope you come,
And we'll
Never mind.
do that. Alright, anything else? I really appreciate you guys coming in, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
I noticed you were at the library and stuff there, so I'm glad.
Yes, Rich. Thank you so much.
Yeah, anytime, guys.
heard your name, I didn't know who you were, so.
I did.
I appreciate
Thanks for that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
If you guys have questions, we're over here all day, every day.
Appreciate it.
You wanna come in?
Yeah.
Thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
No problem, thank you.